standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2, or post your name and number to GB09 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 22nd of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. It's just 3 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. We are live on TV, online and on digital radio. And for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. God knows there's a lot of them. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it is yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next few hours, political commentator Jonathan Liss. Oh, that's not Jonathan Liss, that's the empty chair. Political commentator, I'll try again, Jonathan Liss. OK, let's go. And columnist, oh, there he is. Looks like he's going to run over with that jumper on. No, he looks lovely. And columnist and broadcaster, Lizzie Cundy. Fantastic. Right, listen, on today's show, thousands have taken to the streets to protest against mass immigration. Now, they are being met by anti-racism and Chris Kaba demonstrations. We'll be crossing live to that. And GB News can exclusively reveal that more channel migrants have reached the UK this year than in the whole of 2023. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I will be asking, can Keir Starmer's government really smash the gangs? There is the viewers' poll up. It's on gbnews.com/poll. We'll be bringing you the results at the end of the show, but please cast your vote now. Then, for my difficult conversations, I'll be joined by political commentator Chris Rose for his thoughts as the BBC claims black communities are traumatised. I'm guessing, am I in this or what? Am I not in it? Are traumatised after a police officer was cleared of gun gangster Chris Kaba's murder. And what is a working person?
Working people is people who earn a living, rely on our services and don't really have the ability to write a cheque when they get into trouble. So the sort of people I'm meeting pretty well every day now.
Yeah, that sort of clears it up. I bet he wishes he hadn't started that one. But before we get started, let's get your latest news with Sophia Wenster.
Nana, thank you. Good afternoon. It's just gone 3 o'clock. These are your headlines from the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister has warned Iran not to respond after Israel conducted precise strikes on military targets in Iran overnight. The retaliatory strikes against the Iranian regime come after Tehran launched a barrage of more than 180 ballistic missiles at Israel 3 weeks ago. Terror group Hamas has condemned Israel's attack on Iran as an escalation, calling it a violation of Iran's sovereignty and a threat to regional security. But the IDF says they'll do whatever necessary to defend the state. Downing Street says escalation is in no one's interest and the UK is monitoring the live situation.
Israel does have the right to defend itself, but we are urging and have been urging all sides to show restraint. Iran should not respond. We will continue to work with allies to de-escalate the situation across the region.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister has denied he was plotting a war against Middle Britain after suggestions that those who make an income from property or shares do not fall within his definition of working people. It comes after the Chancellor insisted that Sir Keir Starmer is a working person and could be among those protected from the government's controversial tax hikes in the upcoming budget. In other news, it's understood Commonwealth leaders have agreed that the time has come for a conversation about reparations for the slave trade. That comes despite the UK's desire to keep the subject off the agenda at a two-day summit in Samoa. It's being reported that a document signed by 56 heads of government, including Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, acknowledges calls for discussions on repatriatory justice for the abhorrent transatlantic slave trade. The Prime Minister addressed the issue in a press conference, insisting that there had been no discussions about money at the major summit. Back in the UK, political activist Tommy Robinson is missing his own planned protest in central London today after he was remanded into police custody overnight. Kent Police confirmed the 41-year-old's arrest as he faces potential jail time for alleged contempt of court. Thousands of Tommy Robinson supporters have gathered in Westminster for the rally. Some demonstrators are wearing I Am Peter Lynch badges in reference to a 61-year-old man who died in prison after being jailed for screaming abuse at riot police outside a hotel housing asylum seekers. Meanwhile, hundreds of people have also gathered for another march in central London to protest over deaths in custody alongside the Justice for Chris Kaba campaign. The United Families and Friends campaign marched to Downing Street, where 5 family members dressed in black delivered a handwritten note addressed to Sir Keir Starmer. They knocked on the door and handed it to a security guard. And the mother of a teenager killed in the Nottingham stabbings has branded an episode of BBC Panorama as shameful. Emma Webber, whose 19-year-old son Barnaby was killed last year, says the families were not properly consulted about the episode. The documentary featured an interview with the killer's family and has now been nominated for a range of journalism awards.
He loved his family and we love him and we miss him so much that I don't think there's any words that could ever convey how much that boy is loved and missed. But what we will do is we will get justice. Wes Streeting wrote to the Director General of the BBC with his concerns when he found out a week before that this was airing and that we hadn't been involved. You know, that there's no duty of care to us, despite what they say in their right to reply statement. And I can't believe that that's our BBC that have done that to us. You would think that Panorama would have learned from past mistakes.
The BBC has responded with a statement. We have the deepest sympathy for the families, and the Panorama team has been extremely mindful of the sensitivities in handling this programme. This investigation was very much in the public interest, and the documentary has been produced in accordance with the BBC's editorial guidelines. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More in half an hour.
Well, good afternoon. It's just coming up to 7 minutes after 3 o'clock even. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. Now, before we get stuck into the debates, here's what's coming up in the next hour. My top story, of course, today, thousands have taken to the streets of London to protest against mass immigration. They're being met by anti-racism and Kaba demonstrations. We will cross light to that in a few moments' time. Then, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, can Sir Keir Starmer's government really smash the gangs? All of this after the total number of Channel migrants eclipses last year's figures. So can Keir really smash the gangs? I've got a poll up right now, gbnews.com/poll. Throughout the show, please cast that vote. We will bring you the results towards the end. Then, for my second Great British Debate, should we invest more in our armed forces? And should we do that now rather than later? Royal biographer Angela Levin will be here to give us the latest from behind the palace walls. On the menu, one royal has just joined TikTok. Who do you think that might be? That is coming up. As ever, send me your thoughts, post your comments, gbnews.com/your say. But first, some breaking news to bring you. In the last few moments, police have confirmed that they have arrested 4 people as thousands have taken to the streets of London as part of an anti-immigration protest organised on behalf of Tommy Robinson, who won't be attending as he's actually been arrested under terrorism charges. It's being met by stand-up to racism demonstrations. Well, joining me now is GB News reporter Sophie Reaper. Sophie, welcome to the programme. Sophie, some people have been arrested. What side have they been arrested from? And what for?
Well, Nana, they've been arrested on both sides, the Met Police have confirmed to us. They said, they tweeted, they posted on X, I should say, earlier to say someone had been arrested on common assault. Someone was then also arrested at the Stand Up to Racism demonstration. 2 further arrests were made at the Uniting the Kingdom demonstration, one for a breach of the Public Order Act and one for racially aggravated public order offence. So it seems that arrests have been made on both sides. Now, also in the last 15 minutes, where we are, we've had to take a step back, but for safety reasons, because in the last 15 minutes or so, you should on your screen now be able to see pictures that I recorded myself as it all seemed to kind of kick off here on Whitehall. Police were involved, many police officers. There was lots of pushing and shoving, lots of chanting, and we're not sure. It seems the police are conferring just over my shoulder. We're not sure what's happening, but we will be bringing you the latest on that. But that is just, it just seemed to all come from nowhere, really, Nana. Throughout the day, we've been with this protest, and it's all been really rather peaceful. We spoke to some people earlier about why they decided to come down today, and this is what they had to tell us.
That's not the world we want to live in. We want a world, a civilised world, that's fit for refugees and all people to live together.
We are here to show our passion and commitment, no matter what faith you are, where you're from, your location, your culture, your beliefs. Every living thing is important and should care and have empathy and compassion. God save the world and every living thing.
It has to stop at a point, right? So, I mean, me being an immigrant, I can't stay at home in my conscience, but to come out and show in numbers. I mean, you know, at some point I have to show the people that I care for it. It's for a common cause.
After Southport, I saw, basically, I wasn't really following what was going on until on the day I heard that there was the big protest coming to London, and I wish I could have, I noticed too late that we're going to be counter-protests here, and I wish I could have come, because what happened in Germany was back in the day was division, and we can't see that here. People have to see that it's not okay. It can never be okay to threaten and intimidate people who are seeking refuge.
Well, for the most part, it seems that this Stand Up to Racism protest has died down quite a bit now. There were tens of thousands of people here earlier on today on Whitehall, but if you can see over my shoulder, it has quietened down quite a bit, although the police presence does remain heavy. One would imagine that is because of that brief moment of violence we saw about 15 minutes ago, and of course those arrests that have been made. But not just here, of course, they have also been made at the Uniting the Kingdom protest, which is not far from here whatsoever. It's just down Whitehall. They're found in Parliament Square. There have, of course, been questions about why both have been allowed to take place today, with people wondering if there would be violence. One of the arrests were made, they said, because people were trying to push through the cordon to try and get through to the other protest. It seems that things are quieting down, but we will be bringing you all the latest throughout the show.
We're joined now by the Executive Head of St Thomas the Apostle, Serge Safai. Serge, thank you very much for joining me. I hope I've said your name correctly.
Yes,
it sounds to me, to be honest, like both sides want almost exactly the same thing. Unite the Kingdom want a united kingdom, everybody wants to live together in harmony, and Stand Up to Racism want a united kingdom and everybody to live in harmony. I don't get why they're fighting each other or countering each other, but what do you make of the protest?
Well, what a mess. I'm coming from the point of view of educating kids, 45 years in the job, and what a mess. You know, someone's got to take control of this. People are being encouraged to polarize themselves. So you're either Israeli or Palestinian, etc., etc. You're either trans or you're not. You know, you're either British or somehow an outcast. You know, if I was to run my schools the way that the governments, and not just this one, you go back over many years, you know, I'd get the sack in a heartbeat. You know, why don't these people understand that we need transparency, we need truth, and once you've got those two things going on, you might start to get a little bit of trust, because that's what's broken down in our society. And I just fear for the kids. They're always faced with, and of course, you know, I'm going to talk about social media. Goodness knows what negativity is coming through that. But everywhere they look, they are faced with negativity. They are forced to take one side or the other. And it's only channels like yours, really, that are actually stopping things and saying, let's have a look at both sides. You know, whether it's the environment or not, that's a fantastic example of you're not allowed to say, well, maybe there's a question mark about global warming. I remember talking about it 20 years ago as a geography teacher when the film Ice Age came out. I know it sounds a stupid example, but I told the kids, I remember saying, oh, do you remember the film Ice Age? Oh, yeah, all the mammoths and stuff like that. Well, they're not around anymore, are they? And I said it must have been all those Ice Age people, Stone Age people, driving around in their cars and zooming around on their planes, and none of them, they all went a little bit quiet. And then one of them said, but sir, they didn't have them then. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you? It tells you that some part of it is actually natural. Now, no question of, we can talk about acceleration, but it's that sort of argument that we've got now, except on a far more serious element. You know, the Christopher Kaba idea, for instance, you know, it's really upsetting me. Tragic, absolutely tragic he's been shot. But those parents I've seen, and my schools are in Brixton, in Peckham, etc., you know, where were they when that boy was going off the rails? You know, where were they? You know, I just don't get it.
That is the thing, Serge. Where were they indeed? Well, we'll be talking more about that throughout the show. Serge Safai, thank you very much for joining me. Right, so joining me now is GB News political correspondent Catherine Forster. All right, Catherine, so let's talk about this, because there's a lot to get through. Firstly, let's have a look at, where do you want to start with this?
Shall we start with what the Prime Minister's been up to today? He's been in Samoa at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. Worth saying, he's the only sitting British Prime Minister ever to have sort of gone out to one of these Pacific islands while in office. And there's plenty of the Commonwealth countries that haven't bothered to go. So Canada, India, South Africa haven't bothered to go. In fact, South Africa and India have been at the BRICS summit with Vladimir Putin. So I think he does deserve some credit for the fact that he has gone there. They've come up with this joint communique at the end, and we've had all this talk about reparations during the week. Some suggestions that certain people think we owe up to £18 trillion. The Prime Minister today making it very clear, saying that none of the discussions have been about money. Britain is not going to be paying financial reparations, but there is discussions around what they're calling reparatory justice. So a lot of these countries really affected, these island nations, by climate change, and the UK wanting to help them more to deal with that, wanting to increase trade, wanting potentially to wipe out some of their long-term debts. So no big sums for reparations, but certainly a conversation, and I expect a little bit more help for these countries going forward because, of course, many of them do feel that you know, terrible wrongs have been done to them and they would like some redress. Of course, this is all a very long time ago.
And what about, can we move on to Keir Starmer and working people? He seems to be struggling with the definition of this.
Labour seem to have dug themselves into a very deep hole about what is a working person. And so Keir Starmer the other day suggested that it's somebody, obviously, like all of us, go out, do a job, get paid for it. But he's thinking of people perhaps not earning big salaries that couldn't write a cheque to get themselves out of trouble if there was some, you know, major unforeseen event. He suggested that people with properties or shares didn't fall into his category of working people. Although, of course, plenty of people have jobs and are also landlords and also may have some investments. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has complicated it by saying, well, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, he's on, what, 160,000? He is a working person. So it's clear as mud what exactly they mean. But I think what we can say, what we can say is Labour pledged not to put up taxes on working people. Now, we know they're going to put taxes up because they need to find a lot of money. We know that they're looking at things like capital gains tax, inheritance tax, possibly fuel duty, that they're going to put up employers' national insurance. And lots of working people pay those taxes, and it will have a knock-on effect. But Labour will hold to, they said they wouldn't put up income tax, VAT and national insurance, the main three taxes working people pay. They're not putting those up, and they will hold to that.
Well, we shall see, because Wednesday will be budget day, and I can't wait to hear what Rachel Reeves has to say. Catherine Forster, thank you very much. Right, in the meantime, the number of migrants crossing the Channel into the UK so far this year has already surpassed the entire total for 2023. So let's speak to former Labour Minister Dennis McShane. Dennis McShane, Keir Starmer's plan to smash the gangs doesn't seem to be working, does it?
Certainly, there's a big drive. There's so much poverty, war, and it's far greater in Spain, in Greece, in Italy and Germany. We're still protected, believe it or not, by the Channel. And our main problem, if it's about immigration rather than asylum seekers, is last year the Conservatives, that's Kemi Badenoch and Robert Jenrick, they're in the cabinet, let in 654,000 people, men, women, children, dependents.
Yeah, but we know. But this isn't about gangs. So they made a mistake. They got it totally wrong. We'd expect the Labour government to do a better job, but one of their commitments was to smash the gangs, and this is people coming across the Channel. So can we stick to that?
OK, if you want to go on that, we're putting more money into the French. I mean, we are not, the Metropolitan Police, they've been out there controlling this demonstration, that you can't ship them over to Germany or the Alps or to the dunes of Calais and start knocking off the people who are going to get onto these boats. You can buy a Zodiac. I heard the BBC going potty, I think, yesterday, because you can buy these, they're called Zodiacs generally. It's a generic term for a big boat, small, or take 20, 30 people. I just Googled them up. You can buy them at any boat yard in England. BBC were getting excited because you could buy them in Essen in Germany, as if that was the cause of the problem.
That's great, but
unless we
about...
stop the ban, unless we put a complete ban on all inflatables and smaller boats.
Oh, come on,
no,
Dennis,
of course
that's
not.
Never going to work.
Of course it won't, but you keep talking about it as if there's an alternative.
Well, there isn't, because Keir Starmer got rid of that, didn't he?
Which was that?
Rwanda.
Well, all right. You want a fact on immigration? The EU's just adopted an incredibly draconian immigration set of policies, the harshest I've seen in my lifetime. Countries are going to be allowed to send back.
Good.
Things like Rwanda can happen.
Absolutely.
But you know something? Not a single European government thinks it's got anything to do with the European Court of Human Rights. And if we just focused on trying to make Rwanda work, rather than getting obsessed, as the Tories were and Robert Jenrick is, leaving what Winston Churchill set up, the Convention on Human Rights, and joining Vladimir Putin, perhaps we could have got somewhere.
So are you saying now, Dennis, that Rwanda could have worked if we'd focused on it?
If we had...
Oh, wow.
Rwanda is...
This is a complete turnaround.
Probably... Rwanda's, frankly, too far away and too silly and too expensive. Now, in Italy, Giorgia Meloni has tried to put some people into Albania. If you remember, Keir Starmer went down there and praised her. Tories wouldn't talk to her because she was a European Prime Minister.
But let's stick to
But now the Italian courts have said what they're doing in Italy is illegal. So there's a mass panic to unscramble laws. Not the European Court of Human Rights, Italian judges.
In the meantime, the smashing the gangs are just carrying on with this. Dennis McShane, really good to talk to you. Thank you very much. That is former Labour Minister Dennis McShane, who I feel has just said that he agreed with Rwanda. See, Rwanda would have worked. You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's fast approaching 23 minutes after 3 o'clock. Coming up, should we invest in our armed forces right now? But next, Keir Starmer's government really smashed the gangs. This is GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This week is Chocolate Week, the ultimate celebration of everything rich, sweet and indulgent.
Yes, and we now have the best person in the studio with us to satisfy all of your chocolate cravings. We're joined now by master chocolatier Ollie the Choc. Ollie, really good to see you this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And you brought some of your chocolate in with you.
I did. I brought some tasting samples. You're very welcome to help yourself.
So what have you got here? Tell us.
So this is my signature chocolate. I call it the Holy Grail. It's got sea salt flakes, crushed Oreo, caramel fudge pieces, very Moorish.
I love a caramel and salt combo, just, you know. I feel like you see it everywhere now. Look,
you won't be disappointed.
Look, I want everyone to see a close-up of this one. Can we get a shot on this one? So this is Oreo, there we are, caramel and salt. Do you want to try some?
You go first.
Help yourselves. And then this bar of chocolate is a little bit of a wild card. That's a mystery flavour, so...
OK, I love a mystery.
I'm not going to tell you what that is.
Hold on this one. This one's amazing.
Are you?
Oreo, caramel.
That's my biggest seller.
I'll keep my palate clean for this. So this is a mystery flavour.
You've got to guess what that is.
Is that a nut in there, I see? Right, here we go. Ready?
I'm not saying anything.
Talk us through.
Very crunchy.
For me, I'm all about textures in chocolate.
Me too.
It has got a good crunch to it, hasn't it? It's not the kind of flavour that you would expect.
Oh, I can't get it.
Is it sweet? Is it salty?
No, it's salty, yeah.
It's
OK,
salty.
hang on, bit more.
OK.
Bit more.
I mean, just keep going.
Crisps? Wait,
It is crispy, it's crunchy. Could it be crisps?
I think it could be crisps. Yeah, it's crisps.
So what flavour?
Salt and vinegar. Cheese and onion.
Yes, nailed it. You know.
Oh, you're much better than me.
Love that.
Do you know what? I think I've got a bit of a cold, so my taste buds are
off. Oh, you're going to blame that, are you?
That's my excuse. That's delicious.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Right, it's just coming up to 26 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. Please send me your thoughts. Post your comments. gbnews.com/yoursay. I will read some of those. But first, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, can Keir Starmer's government really smash the gangs? As the number of migrants crossing the Channel into the UK so far has already surpassed last year's total. Joining me to discuss, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy and also political commentator Jonathan Liss. Right, let's get straight in there. Can he smash the gangs, Jonathan Liss?
I don't know. I hope so. Look,
It avoids saying no, doesn't it, really? He can't, can he? He can't.
I think that it is a very, very difficult issue that's built up over a number of years. It can't be solved overnight, and no one, apart from Rishi Sunak, was stupid enough to believe that it could be completely resolved. You notice that the government does not use the slogan "Stop the boats" anymore. There is a realisation that the boats are not just going to stop overnight, and I differ from the government in a lot of respects, but particularly on this issue, because I think that until the government provides safe and legal routes for people to come here, and we've said this many, many times before, then that is basically leaving the market open for the gangs.
Do you genuinely believe that the people who come via dinghies will use any safe and legal routes? And by the way, some of them are coming from countries where there are safe and legal routes.
No.
So why are they on the dinghies?
Very, very, very few of them are doing that, actually. We know that the majority of people who come here to claim asylum are in fact granted asylum when the asylum system is working efficiently.
They're from Vietnam, a lot of
The vast majority of asylum claims are granted. So that's the first thing to bear in mind. So we know that even if you think there is a distinction between legitimate asylum seekers and economic migrants, I think that there's an argument for economic migration, but that's not what we're talking about right now. Even if you think that there is a distinction between those two groups, the majority of people are deemed to be legitimate asylum seekers. So those people who are legitimate asylum seekers are coming through illegal means, which are the boats and the gangs, because there is no other way for them to come in.
No, listen, OK, that would be great, safe and legal routes, I hear you, but what's going on in Vietnam, which requires people from Vietnam to come here? Is there some sort of terrible thing that's going on there?
Nana,
they're all coming here. That's a large portion of the migrants.
As I just said, the majority of the people who come here are deemed to be legitimate. So
well,
there are all kinds of reasons. It's not for me to say that people from Vietnam can't possibly have legitimate claims to asylum. Some may and some may not.
Well, but there are safe and legal routes, but there's no issue with
well, they
Vietnam.
Can't just... They have to... people have to get visas.
But you're saying more safe and legal routes from Vietnam. There's no trouble in Vietnam. Lizzie Cundy.
I'm afraid Starmer has no plan, no idea, no deterrent. And him for smashing the gangs, that's what he said. Of course he can't smash the gangs. He's got no plan. He hasn't got a clue. And the figures are showing. Look how many have come over under his watch. 15,500 just since he's been Prime Minister. 900 in the last 7 days. Let's admit it. He is clueless. Fred Flintstone would do a better job. I'm afraid. It's true.
And there's Barney Rubble. That's his chancellor.
Lizzie, as you just said, this issue has been developing for a long time. No one thought that the people would stop coming on the boats the day after Labour came to government. No one thought that. What they have done is they have set up a border security command. They have got someone in to run that now.
Yes.
So look,
finally took a while.
OK, fine, but it is done. These things don't happen overnight. There is someone now who's running it. We'll see how it goes. We can come back here in 6 months' time and assess the situation. As I say, my remedy for this problem is different from the government. So it's not as though I'm going to be a complete cheerleader and defender of the government on this particular issue necessarily. It will be judged on its record, but I do think the government needs to change its whole approach to asylum, because until it acknowledges it needs to provide safe and legal routes, the gangs are going to be the only market in town.
On his first day of government, he got rid of Rwanda. Didn't he?
Which he promised to do. And that was endorsed by the British people.
Millions, 240 million spent on Rwanda and more, and he just
pointless.
What for? He just threw it away because
stupid.
Now there's no deterrent.
No, it wasn't
They're
going
not
to work,
scared,
Lizzie.
Jonathan. They're just coming over all the time, and it's dangerous. And know what's so dangerous? There's 46 deaths that have happened. This is a dangerous journey.
But the whole point is, everyone wants to stop the boats, including the people who get on them.
But he used
Everyone
the line,
wants to.
smash the boats.
Yes, they do.
Smash the boats.
Where did you hear them tell you that they wanted to stop the boats, the people who are getting on the boat?
If there was a safe and legal way...
Have you asked any of them?
If there was a safe and legal way for you to come to this country that didn't involve you spending all your life savings to the most unscrupulous horrendous people on the planet in a boat that might actually kill you on the way over, then of course you would take the safe and legal way.
No, you wouldn't, and a lot
would.
of them haven't, and many of them are criminals who are coming here. So I'm afraid to say that whilst that does sound wonderfully laudable, safe and legal routes, you'd supply safe and legal routes for countries where there is turmoil and issues and problems.
We don't.
Yeah,
Sudan, where are the safe and legal routes to flee Sudan?
But there's no problems in Vietnam. This is my point. These people are coming here illegally because they know, like you said, that pretty much everyone gets accepted.
Exactly. He used that line, smash the gangs, smash the gangs. He just said it as a strapline. He's got no idea how to smash the gangs. If he smashed one, another would set up right away. He's not got a clue. And this is the worry with this Labour Party. And that's why he's minus 36 in popularity at the minute, because he doesn't know. He's too interested about people supervising them, brushing them teeth. He's standing there with a tube of Colgate, not knowing what to do next. He hasn't got a clue, Jonathan. He really doesn't.
He doesn't,
does he? I don't get the toothpaste.
Because he was saying he's brushing your teeth. That's all he seems to talk about these days.
And cigarettes and, you know, things like that.
Look, I mean, look, I'm not a proponent of the nanny state, and I don't agree with all that stuff. But when it comes to this issue, I'll say it again, we need to take a step back and actually deal with this problem at source.
Which is what Keir Starmer's proposing, is it the gangs? He thinks it's the gangs.
But I would disagree with him on that. And I think that there will always be people who want to come here to claim asylum, and some of them will be legitimate asylum seekers, some of them will be economic migrants. And as I say, I have nothing against economic migration, but we're talking about asylum right now. So there are safe and legal routes. It doesn't have to be straight from Vietnam. It could also be, you can provide means for people to come here from France, for example, or you can have visa processes.
Oh my God, Jonathan, do you realise what you just said? And we've given them $500 million for what?
I do realise what I just said, and there is no provision in international law for you to have to go to stop in the first safe, quote unquote, safe country that you go to.
Well, that's not the point. The point is that they're coming from a safe country.
Yes, that I literally just said there's no provision in international law for you to.
So if they're coming from a safe country, they're not fleeing persecution.
Well, they are. They might also be fleeing persecution, and there are many people who will want to stay in France.
From France, Jonathan,
and
what we've got to do...
And there will be many people who want to come to Britain for all kinds of reasons.
We need to turn the boats back. We need to leave the ECHR, and that's what we need to do.
I don't know about leaving the ECHR.
Well, I believe that.
I don't know about leaving the ECHR.
You woke, Nana.
Because some countries are able to turn the boats back and they're in it. But anyway, what do you think? I've got to pull up on gbnews.com/poll throughout the show. Cast your vote. I'm asking you whether you believe Keir Starmer can smash the gangs. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel, live on TV, online and on digital radio. Next, another great British debate, and I'm asking, should we invest in our armed forces now? But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Louise McKenzie.
Good afternoon. It's just after 3:30. I'm Louise McKenzie here in the GB newsroom. Now, 4 arrests have been made in London following a day of protests in the capital. The Met say 2 arrests have been made at the Unite the Kingdom demonstrations, one for a breach of Public Order Act and a breach of the peace, and one for racially aggravated public order offences. The other 2 arrests were made at the Stand Up to Racism protest. More on that later. Sir Keir Starmer has warned Iran not to respond after Israel conducted precise strikes on military targets in the country overnight. The strikes against the Iranian regime come after Tehran launched a barrage of more than 180 ballistic missiles at Israel 3 weeks ago. Terror group Hamas have condemned Israel's attack on Iran as an escalation, calling it a violation of Iran's sovereignty and a threat to regional security. But the IDF say they'll do whatever is necessary to defend the state. In other news, the PM has denied he was plotting a war against Middle Britain after suggestions that those who make an income from property or shares do not fall within his definition of working people. It comes after the Chancellor insisted that Sir Keir Starmer is a working person and could be among those protected from the government's controversial tax hikes in the coming budget. Well, those have been your latest GB News headlines. I'm Louise McKenzie. More from me in half an hour's time.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. We've got a three-way split in the weather today. Rain in the northwest, sunnier for most towards the south, but it will be turning chillier for all of us on Sunday. Having a look at the bigger picture, we've got frontal systems out towards the south and east, but a cold front towards the northwest. And here we have heavy spells of rain sinking their way south and eastwards across Scotland, but later into northwest England, into Wales, but it will gradually sink its way southwards and start fizzling out. We may see some mist and fog patches across the southeast early through this evening, but those should clear. And in many places tonight, seeing a clear night, but temperatures will drop. We may see some mist and fog, but also some pockets of frost. So a colder but brighter start out there through Sunday for many of us. There will be some showers, especially across northern parts of Scotland, quite blustery as they move through, but across many places, still seeing some sunshine, but feeling colder out there to start Sunday morning. And then we have cloud and rain coming through across western parts later into Northern Ireland. Elsewhere though, across much of England and Wales, plenty of sunshine to start the day. And we hold on to that sunshine across much of England and Wales through Sunday, so plenty of autumnal sunshine out there. But further towards the west, especially across Northern Ireland and Scotland, it'll be turning increasingly cloudy and damp with outbreaks of rain moving through, persistent but also quite heavy over the hills. For all of us though, it is going to be feeling quite chilly out there. We'll see highs of 13 or 14 degrees in the south. As we go through Sunday evening, that cloud and rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland will continue to push in, affecting northwestern parts of England and into Wales later. But as we go into the week, higher pressure does start to dominate, but it'll be quite cloudy still, with temperatures close to average. Bye-bye.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. If you just tuned in, welcome. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. 39 minutes after 3 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. And it's time for another Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should we invest in our armed forces now, right now? The Defence Secretary, John Healey, has admitted that the military are not ready to fight a war. He said that the armed forces had been hollowed out and underfunded under the last government to such an extent that it would not be able to deter the enemy if war broke out today. In fact, I think that they said we'd be able to fight if we were, like, say, being attacked by Russia, like Ukraine is, we'd last for about 8 days. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should we invest in our armed forces right now as opposed to later on? Let's get the thoughts of my panel, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, also political commentator Jonathan Liss. Lizzie Cundy, we'll start with you.
Yeah, most definitely. Our military are ill-equipped. They're depleting. I've got a fact here which is quite shocking. The Royal Navy has declined by 74% since the Falklands. And we are in big trouble. And the thing, I work and help with armed forces charities, and they are really not looked after, from their equipment to their housing. It's not an attractive job, and it should, to serve our country, we should give them everything. And it really is sad what's happening.
Jonathan Liss.
Nana Akua, Yes, I do think it's time to invest in in our armed forces. It's obviously very worrying that we don't have the capabilities right now to defend ourselves, basically. And I think that it's not a left-right issue. We do obviously need to have the rudiments of national self-defence. And there are obviously a lot of people out there that wish us ill, whether it's governments or sort of non-state actors or individuals or whoever it may be. And obviously we need to be alive to those threats and nimble in how we deal with them. So obviously that involves all kinds of things besides traditional warfare. It involves cyber and counter-terrorism and de-radicalisation, all kinds of things should be in the arsenal, if you like. And obviously that will involve some money, but it's very much in our interest as well to carry on defending and supplying weaponry to Ukraine, because I think that there is a Ukraine fatigue that is creeping in, and particularly if the worst happens and Donald Trump is elected in a couple of days' time.
Why is that the worst?
Because Donald Trump does not believe in Ukraine's right, basically, to defend itself as a country.
Jonathan, there were no wars under Donald Trump.
He does not. Well, Lizzie, we can argue about that, but let's argue about what's happening in the
I'm just
right
saying
now.
something factual.
Well, that's not true, by the way. There were wars,
but he didn't start any whilst he was the President of the United States.
Well, I don't think Biden has started any. Biden didn't start the Ukraine war.
Look at his evacuation of Afghanistan.
It's actually irrelevant.
People could argue that Biden was one of the main reasons why that war happened, actually.
I think that would be a false assertion. But leaving that aside, there is a war now. And Donald Trump is the candidate who has praised Putin and has suggested that Ukraine should give up vast swathes of its territory and effectively surrender to whatever Russia wants. Whereas the other candidate, Harris, has not done so and has pledged to continue supporting Ukraine. So the outcome of that election is vitally important, and it's also vitally important for our interest, because a Russia that is on the loose and has absolutely no limitations what it can do is incredibly dangerous.
All right, very
No, I will agree with you there, because with Putin, someone like him, who knows what he will do next, and it's a very worry. We look like a weak country.
That's because we are. Lizzie Cundy, thank you very much, Jonathan. Listen, next, the Royal Roundup. Angela Levin will be here to give us the latest from behind the palace walls. One royal has joined TikTok. Who could that be?
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
We shot with the London Eye in the background, so it's quite an iconic shoot to do my cover of the Playboy magazine. So,
and you moved into the mansion for a while. Hugh called you the British Carmen Electra. You were one of his favourites, and it's renowned for its parties, of course. Over there, you must have had a few of those. Must have been wild times.
Fantastic parties, yeah. I mean, I met some incredible people. I will forever respect him and everyone at Playboy for the love and the support.
And you were on giant billboards, you were modelling for Nike, for Reebok, you're earning thousands of pounds a day.
Well,
absolutely like living the dream in terms of a model's lifestyle, and then things began to change.
Well, I've been living in Windsor for 4 years, and I can't get back into Windsor at the moment. The rents have gone ridiculous. I was paying $550 a month, and then the landlord just turned around one day and said I need to be paying $750. And I didn't really have a proper tenancy agreement, and I looked through it and I said, oh, can we get something in writing? And he was like, oh. So in the end, I wrote a tenancy agreement out from off the internet and I got it all signed. But then he went, if you're not going to pay the extra £250 a month, then you're going to have to move out. And I was like, well, you're going to have to give me 4 weeks. I can't just move out. I've got nowhere to go. And I think he thought he could just throw me out there and then. And he said, I've got someone that's going to move in that's going to pay £700-800 a month. So I went and got the 10, and I thought maybe this will be the way I can go for a few months or so, and it was still summer a few months back when I became homeless. So, I got the 10 and I got all the cooking equipment and what have you from the money I got from some of the jobs I did. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go and be a free spirit for a bit, and I'm gonna have to just do my own thing. And you know what, it was the biggest mental relief to be able to have my own space. I mean, that was so liberating, absolutely.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, this is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. Remember, you can download the GB News app. It is completely free. Check out everything on the channel. But there is always something going on in the royal household, and this week has been no different. And every Saturday I love to give you a rundown, and who better to do so than royal biographer Angela Levin. Right, shall we start with that trip to Australia and Samoa?
Yes. And if I can, I start with Camilla, because she got herself all ready. She went away for a week with friends to one of the best places in the world, in India, to massage her, to calm her, to do that. She had a very good way, so she would come fit to do absolutely what Charles wanted. She was brilliant, I thought. I watched her with great concentration, that she made him roar with laughter when they gave her a nature crown, which was made of bark and flowers, and she put it on her head, and she said, "Come on, what do you think?" And he said, "It's lovely, you look lovely." I mean, they're just very sweet. It's the first time, however, I've ever seen a royal couple walk arm in arm downstairs. She did that. And I thought to myself, the Queen would have said absolutely not. But you can see it's much more relaxed. They're very relaxed together. And they walked down, and he was very careful. He nearly tripped in one part. Oh, you know, they're very much looking after each other.
She was like,
it's very sweet. So and actually, when they moved to Samoa, the King was given a drink of all sorts of herbs and things like that. And she had her fan, and she kept looking very cautiously.
Well, we've got pictures of them there doing just that.
Yes. Very cautiously, that he might be taking too much, what effect it might have on him, which is absolutely understandable if you've got, you know, a husband, let alone the King, who is suffering from cancer.
Although he looks incredibly well. I mean, we've got him on the screen there.
He's got what he wanted, didn't he? He was so determined to go. He was actually there for first time in 1974 when he was a communication officer at sea. So he loved it then, he loves it now. And as he said, that he hopes that the doctors will help him and that he will be lucky enough.
I tell you what, they've got some good remedies there. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying that they can cure cancer, but, you know, I think a lot of these things are in what we're eating and what we're doing and how we can affect our prognosis, so it will be interesting. Shall we move on to Tina Brown, who described Meghan in a very negative way, a way that no one has dared to before? What did she say? Tell us more.
Well, she said that she apparently Meghan is inconsolable with tears. She's crying non-stop because she really liked Tina Brown, and now she's dropped her. But she media strategy, she says, is total rubbish. She used another word for rubbish, and I think you'll throw me out if I use that one.
Right,
so
fair enough.
Rubbish. And the fact that she doesn't listen, that she's got the worst judgment of anyone in the whole world. Can you imagine hearing that about yourself, especially when you think you're incredibly important and everything you do is global? So that
I mean, that's obviously what Tina Brown thinks, and she hasn't met everybody in the world. There's probably somebody out there who's got much worse judgment than her, but they're probably a lot younger.
Well, but they're not in the front of the world, are they? They're not. No, but also she said about Harry that he's very naive and unschooled in the way of the world. Well, that's probably true, but I think Meghan wearing Diana's perfume actually just knocked him for 6, and he thought, this is it. But she looked it up and decided that that would help her.
Did she definitely do that? She wore
Oh,
the same
yeah, I've
perfume?
been told that by several people, that she actually put that perfume on because she knew that that would really, you know, make him happy.
But it's not,
Right.
that's not confirmed 100%. I mean, that's...
Then he's got trouble with his visa. They're allowed to look again at what the problem is, and he might still not be able to stay there. Maybe that's why they're buying somewhere else, but I don't think so. But he wasn't home for Archie to go to spend his first day at school. You didn't see them go off, which I think is a shame. You know, age 5, first time you go to school. I know that Catherine and William both went there. But there we are. And I think he doesn't know where he is at the moment. It's very, very difficult.
But he doesn't know where the school is?
No, he doesn't know what decisions he's making. They say they're going to work separately. Then they say they're buying a house in Portugal. Well, you don't do that if you want to separate for most of the time. I think it's in a very bad state, but they're trying to work out something.
I wonder if Keir Starmer would classify them as working people.
No, they wouldn't be.
They wouldn't be, would they?
They wouldn't be.
They go to work, do they write a
because
cheque?
they've got more than one house and they've got all sorts of things. No. Well, the other thing is Fergie is the first royal to join TikTok.
So it's Sarah Ferguson.
Yep, and she's made her name as Sarah Ferguson. She doesn't call herself Duchess or anything. And but the royals won't do it to anything because it's owned by China, and so it will be very, very difficult for them to do it. But she talks about cancer, and she talks about doesn't do any dancing or anything. She does try and help younger people. Have usually said that she loves to talk to the younger generation. So her reasons for doing it are very positive, and if anybody listens on that, that would be quite nice. The other thing is to unwind what I said today, which I would like to talk about. Balmoral was said that it was going to be ready for weddings, and they've come back, the BBC said so, and they came back to say absolutely not. What they're doing is upgrading facilities for functions, but it's not going to host commercial weddings.
Another thing they got wrong.
I thought I'd better just get that right.
Yes, on GB News we like to get things right. Yeah. So that's it.
So that's it, really. But I think we've got this thing of a couple who love for each other has lasted so well between the King and Queen. You see it, you feel it. And to get 10,000 people round when they left to go from Australia to Samoa, I thought that was said, you know, yes, we want you, we love you, and we don't want to get rid of you. And I think that was so lovely. I mean, sitting on my table, I could watch that without feeling, I don't understand what's going on. It was just very moving.
Well, Angela Levin, thank you so much. As ever, royal biographer Angela Levin in our Royal Roundup. But next, my monologue on what is a working person. Are you a working person? Am I? Have you written a cheque recently? I don't think I have. I'm not sure. But stay with us. We'll try and work it out and muzzle through it together. But first, let's get an update with your weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. We've got a three-way split in the weather today. Rain in the northwest, sunnier for most towards the south, but it will be turning chillier for all of us on Sunday. Having a look at the bigger picture, we've got frontal systems out towards the south and east, but a cold front towards the northwest. And here we have heavy spells of rain sinking their way south and eastwards across Scotland, but later into northwest England, into Wales, but it will gradually sink its way southwards and start fizzling out. We may see some mist and fog patches across the southeast early through this evening, but those should clear. And in many places tonight, seeing a clear night, but temperatures will drop. We may see some mist and fog, but also some pockets of frost. So a colder but brighter start out there through Sunday for many of us. There will be some showers, especially across northern parts of Scotland, quite blustery as they move through. But across many places, still seeing some sunshine, but feeling colder out there there to start Sunday morning, and then we have cloud and rain coming through across western parts later into Northern Ireland. Elsewhere though, across much of England and Wales, plenty of sunshine to start the day. And we hold on to that sunshine across much of England and Wales through Sunday, so plenty of autumnal sunshine out there. But further towards the west, especially across Northern Ireland and Scotland, it'll be turning increasingly cloudy and damp with outbreaks of rain moving through, persistent but also quite heavy over the hills. For all of us though, it is going to be feeling quite chilly out there. We'll see highs of 13 or 14 degrees in the south. As we go through Sunday evening, that cloud and rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland will continue to push in, affecting northwestern parts of England and into Wales later. But as we go into the week, higher pressure does start to dominate, but it'll be quite cloudy still, with temperatures close to average. Bye-bye.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're giving you the chance to win everything you need to celebrate the festivities. There's £20,025 in tax-free cash. There's £5,000 to spend on gifts for all the family. There's £500 to spend in your favourite supermarket. And a festively themed GB News goodie bag. We'll get it all to you in time for the big day. For your chance to win, call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2, or post your name and number to GB09 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 22nd of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home? Talking about. Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Budget Day on GB News on Wednesday. Stay with us all day for the most anxiously anticipated budget in a generation.
Morning through to evening, we'll be here with insight and analysis, crunching the numbers
as we work out the cost to the country and, most importantly, to you.
Because the Chancellor has a bill to pay. The question is...
who's going to pay it? Budget Day, all day Wednesday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News, Britain's news channel. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it is yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next few hours, political commentator Jonathan Liss, and also columnist and broadcaster Lizzie Cundy. On On today's show, thousands have taken to the streets of London to protest against mass immigration. They're being met by anti-racism and Kaba demonstrators who will be crossing there live. And GB News can also exclusively reveal that more Channel migrants have reached the UK this year than in the whole of 2023. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, can Sir Keir Starmer's government really smash the gangs? There's a poll up right now on gbnews.com/poll. Throughout the show, we'll bring you the results at the end. Then, my difficult conversation. Joining me, political commentator Chris Rose, for his thoughts as the BBC claims that black communities are traumatised after a police officer was cleared of gun gangster Chris Kaba's murder. And what is a working person?
Working people is people who earn a living, rely on our services and don't really have the ability to write a cheque when they get into trouble. So the sort of people I'm meeting pretty well every day now.
Nobody writes cheques anymore. I bet he wish he hadn't started that one. But before we get started, let's get your latest news with Louise Mackenzie.
Good afternoon, it's 4 o'clock. I'm Louise Mackenzie here in the GB newsroom. Now, 4 arrests have now been made in London following a day of protests in the capital. The Met say 2 of the arrests were made at the Uniting the Kingdom demonstration, one for being in breach of the Public Order Act and a breach of the peace, and another for a racially aggravated public order offence. The other 2 arrests were made for common assault at the Stand Up to Racism counter protest. Downing Street says escalation is in no one's interest after Israel conducted precise strikes on military targets in Iran overnight. These strikes against the Iranian regime come after Tehran launched a barrage of more than 180 ballistic missiles at Israel 3 weeks ago. Terror group Hamas has condemned Israel's attack on Iran, calling it a violation of Iran's sovereignty and a threat to regional security. But the IDF says they'll do whatever is necessary to defend the state. Well, meanwhile, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, says the UK is monitoring the situation and has warned Iran not to respond.
Israel does have the right to defend itself, but we are urging and have been urging all sides to show restraint. Iran should not respond. We will continue to work with allies to de-escalate the situation across the region.
Well, in other news, the Prime Minister has denied he was plotting a war against Middle Britain after suggestions that those who make an income from property or shares do not fall within his definition of working people. It comes after the Chancellor insisted that Sir Keir Starmer is a working person and could be among those protected from the government's controversial tax hikes in the upcoming budget. And then the mother of a teenager killed in the Nottingham stabbings has branded an episode of BBC Panorama as shameful. Emma Webber, whose 19-year-old son Barnaby on the left there was killed last year. She says the families were not properly consulted about the episode. The documentary featured an interview with the killer's family and has now been nominated for a range of journalism awards.
He loved his family and we love him and we miss him so much that I don't think there's any words that could ever convey how much that boy is loved and missed. But what we will do is we will get justice. Wes Streeting wrote to the Director General of the BBC with his concerns when he found out a week before that this was airing and that we hadn't been involved. You know, that there's no duty of care to us, despite what they say in their right to reply statement. And I can't believe that that's our BBC that have done that to us. You would think that Panorama would have learned from past mistakes.
Now, the BBC has responded to this interview by saying the following statement: "We have the deepest sympathy for the families. And the team, and the Panorama team has been extremely mindful of the sensitivities in handling this programme. This investigation was very much in the public interest and the documentary has been produced in accordance with BBC editorial guidelines." Well, those have been your latest GB News headlines. I'm Louise Mackenzie. There's more from me in half an hour's time.
Good afternoon, welcome to GB News. We are live on TV, online and on digital radio. Now, thousands have taken to the streets of London as part of an anti-immigration protest organised on behalf of Tommy Robinson, who won't be attending as he's been arrested under terrorism charges. It's being met by Stand Up to Racism demonstrators. Well, in the last hour, the Metropolitan Police has said that there have been 4 arrests in total, 2 from each side. Joining me now is GB News reporter Sophie Reaper. Sophie, can you give us an update? It looks to me like the protest is dispersing now.
It is indeed, Nana. It's a completely different picture here to what it was perhaps 2 or 3 hours ago, where there were tens of thousands of people crammed into Whitehall as part of this Stand Up to Racism protest. Whereas now, as you can see behind me, people are slowly making their way out of Whitehall. There's perhaps a couple of hundred people down at the bottom where the stage is, but largely I would say that this protest is now over. And although we're not there, I would imagine it's a similar story over, you can perhaps see Big Ben just in the distance there. That is where Parliament Square is, and that is where the Uniting the Kingdom protest is taking place, or was taking place today. That was obviously organised by Tommy Robinson, as you said there. He's not in attendance. Then the Stand Up to Racism one, which was taking place here, that was set up as a counter-protest to that. It's been relatively calm today, although, as you mentioned, there has been a few episodes of violence and a couple of arrests made at each one. But largely, as I say, it has been quite peaceful. People here with their own reasons that we managed to chat to a couple of those earlier, and this is what they had to say.
We don't want, that's not the world we want to live in. We want a world, a civilised world, that's fit for refugees and all people to live together.
We are here to show our passion and commitment. No matter what faith you are, where you're from, your location, your culture, your beliefs. Every living thing is important, and you should care and have empathy and compassion. God save the world and every living thing.
It has to stop at a point, right? So, I mean, me being an immigrant, I can't stay at home in my conscience, but to come out and show in numbers, I mean, you know, at some point I have to show the people that I care for it. It's for a common cause.
After Southport, I saw, basically, I wasn't really following what was going on until on the day I heard that there was the big protest coming to London, and I wish I could have, I noticed too late that there were going to be counter-protests here, and I wish I could have come, because what happened in Germany was back in the day was division, and we can't see that here. People have to see that it's not okay. It can never be okay to threaten and intimidate people who are seeking refuge.
Well, the police did bring in extra members from forces around the UK today to try and make sure that there would be no trouble. And although there have been a couple of brief moments, largely you might say that the police may now feel that they're out of the woods with this as people continue to disperse now across the capital. Although there will still be questions about why these 2 protests that could have come to blows, why they were both allowed to take place on the same day.
All right, Sophie Reaper, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. But right now we have some breaking news. Catherine Forster, GB News political correspondent, joins us. Catherine.
Yes, so this is concerning Mike Amesbury. He's a Labour MP for Runcorn and Helsby in Greater Manchester. He's been an MP since 2017, got a big majority of just under 15,000. And last night he was involved in let's call it an altercation in Frodsham in Cheshire. Now, we know about this because a member of the public took a bit of video which is now all across social media. Basically, words were being exchanged between Mike Amesbury, the MP, and a member of the public. The member of the public was on the ground. The MP was talking about feeling threatened. The other guy, it was not pleasant, shall we say, not pleasant. I don't know if we can show a bit of the video.
Let's have a look. We do, yes.
You won't ever threaten me again. The MP, you won't ever threaten me again, will you? The MP on the floor.
What do you want to do? Leave it.
The MP of Runcorn smacking someone on the floor.
Get out of that film.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And you won't threaten the MP ever again, will you?
Oh, is it Mike? Is it Mike?
Yes.
He's the local MP, Jono.
Oh,
Get him on camera. Get him on camera, Jono. He's the local MP.
The MP of Runcorn.
That's what you should be doing round here,
The
isn't
MP
it?
of
The local
Runcorn
MP.
smacks someone.
He's the local MP,
Don't
Jono.
threaten the MP. You'll never do it again, will you?
You'll never be
MP. You'll
The
never
MP.
again, will you?
Wow.
Yeah, but the MP.
He's the local MP. You just
The
lost
MP.
it. You just lost it.
Exactly that.
You just
Oh dear.
So we know that Cheshire Police have said that at 2:48 a.m. police were called to reports of an assault in Frodsham. Caller reported he had been assaulted by a man in Main Street. Inquiries are ongoing. Now, we don't know who made that call, but Mike Amesbury has now made a statement and he has said, "Last night, I was involved in an incident that took place after I felt threatened on the street following an evening out with friends. This morning, I contacted Cheshire Police myself to report what happened during this incident. I will not be making further public comment, but will, of course, cooperate with any inquiries if required by Cheshire Police." Now, Labour have said, we're aware of an incident that took place, aware that Mike Amesbury approached the police and has said he will cooperate fully with any inquiries they have. At the moment, he has not been suspended from the Labour Party, so we will wait to hear what emerges as more details come to light.
All right, Catherine Foster, thank you very much. We shall keep our eyes on that, shan't we? We'll definitely keep our eye on that. Well, stay tuned because my niggle is up next. So it's fast approaching 13 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. OK, so I've got a question for you. Who had their parliamentary credit card suspended because they owed more than £4,000 in unauthorised payments and was described by one of her colleagues as having a reputation for being useless? Yes, you guessed it. Our Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, who, between herself and Sir Keir Starmer, have literally made it a virtue of making themselves deeply unpopular. They promised not to raise taxes on working people. Only no one appears to be able to define just what that actually means. What is a working person?
What is a working person?
Well, a working person...
Simon Cowell?
Well, a working person is someone who works their living.
I've got that.
And uses our public services. The person I have
so
in mind...
Simon Cowell?
The person I have in my mind, Nick, when I say working people is people who earn their living, rely on our services and don't really have the ability to write a cheque when they get into trouble. So the sort of people I'm meeting pretty well every day now.
Landlord or working person then, Mr Murray?
Well, it depends where people earn their money from, and that's what the focus of our commitment is around working people.
I think you know you're a very bright bloke. You know how a landlord makes his or her money. Is a landlord a working person?
What we're saying is that we want to protect working people, and working people...
No, I'm sorry, I don't know. We've had a few technical problems. Perhaps you didn't hear the question. It's a yes or no, sir. Is a landlord a working person?
Well, it depends how people earn their money. The focus is on people who go out to work to earn their money.
Are you having a problem hearing me?
5 million small business owners in this country. Are they working people?
Yeah. Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know how the shadow deputy Prime Minister can stand there with a straight face when it was the small businesses, the working people of this country that paid the price of them crashing the economy.
Ah, right, so they're not answering the question. That explains it. Not. It's laughable. The definition seems to be getting narrower, and in any case, who made them the arbiters for where the parameters begin and end in what makes someone a working person? This takes me back to Sir Keir's inability to define a woman and whether one can have a penis or not.
Woman can have a penis.
Nick, I'm not... I don't think we can conduct this debate with you know.
Sorry, have I offended you in some way?
No. It's just no. I just.
A woman can have a penis.
I don't think that discussing this issue in this way helps anyone in the long run.
I mean, if somebody would have told you that that would be a question or an issue 10 years ago, you'd laughed at them, wouldn't you? You'd have laughed in their face. Oh, dear. The Labour Party are quite quickly finding out that the guff that they spouted in opposition, which went largely unchallenged by many in the established media, doesn't work when you're in power. Now, whilst GB News has challenged narratives from all parties throughout, Sir Keir Starmer, in my view, was given the green light by most of the other broadcasters. But at least on this matter, we are united in our confusion. Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves promised not to raise taxes on working people, but what constitute as a working person. Am I one? And somebody finally tells Sir Keir Starmer that nobody writes cheques anymore. Right, before we get stuck into the debate, here's what else is coming up today. For the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do you believe you are a working person? Also discussing, have Labour broken their manifesto promise? As we might be seeing a rise in national insurance for employers. A real nightmare of a Halloween budget, perhaps. Who knows? It's coming on Wednesday. And Iran have vowed revenge for Israel's strike on Tehran, saying that it is entitled to defend itself. Are we on the brink of all-out war? Uri Geller joins us live from Tel Aviv. That's all coming up. As ever, send me your thoughts, post your comments, gbnews.com/your say. Right, well, joining me now, Labour Special Advisor and columnist Paul Richards. Paul, are you a working person?
Well, I am, and unfortunately, I'm not a special advisor anymore, but I was once upon a time. And
we'll correct that.
I think, I mean, most people know what a working person is because they are one. They go out to work, and you're going to ask me what's a working person. My definition is somebody who's, 2 paychecks away from disaster, basically. Somebody who doesn't have a load of assets, who doesn't have a load of stored up wealth, who doesn't have homes on different continents, and has to go out every day and get the money to put the food on the table. That's who we're talking about. It's a simple definition. And
simple, Paul. No, I can't let you get away with that. That's not simple. That's your definition, and that's the problem, because somehow the parameters of what constitutes a working person in your mind is that they're 2 paychecks away from bankruptcy or whatever it is. But I don't think that's a working person. And other people might see a working person as something else. Just because I might not be 2 paychecks away from bankruptcy doesn't mean I'm now not a working person. That doesn't make any sense. Well, that's why people are confused.
I think the good news is that this will be revealed on Wednesday. We've only got 4 days to wait now because the budget will tell us who's going to be taxed more and who isn't. But, in very general terms, there is a super class of people who have multiple homes, who don't go out to an office or a factory or a foundry every day, but have enormous wealth. And there's more of them than ever before, and they own more of the nation's wealth than ever before and the world's wealth. And these people don't pay their fair share of taxes. That's who isn't a working person.
Well,
pretty much everybody else. And even if they get money from owning a flat, or most of us have perhaps got stocks and shares, and certainly tied up with our pension plans and so on. That's not who we're talking about. We're talking about the people who just have sort of the people in succession, those kind of people who just live a different life to the rest of us.
What about landlords then? Because this is confusing. Because I'm a landlord, I'm an accidental landlord. I only have 1 property. It is, I actually live in a rented property, but I rent my own property out because, that's just the way the land lies. So does that mean that I'm now no longer a working person?
No, I don't think that's fair at all. I don't think. I mean, James Murray didn't answer the question, but I think I think somebody who is a landlord. And for whatever reason might have inherited a property or anything else, I think they count as a working person. Of course, I don't think that's what we're talking about.
But they don't earn their money on that asset. Sorry, but they don't earn their money on that asset through going to work every day.
But I think a lot of people in that situation are not full-time professional landlords. They are people who, for, as you say, whatever reason, by accident or inheritance or anything else, or luck, or even it's a pension plan, happen to own property. But that's not what we're talking about here. And like I say, on Wednesday we'll see. It's about how you start to repair the economy by putting taxes where they should fall, so people can pay fair taxes, but not hammer the people who've been hammered so hard, certainly in the trust budget and over the last 14 years as well. But all will be revealed on Wednesday, Nana. All will be revealed.
So a professional landlord who works full-time is not a working person? See, that's the thing, isn't it? It doesn't... I think Keir Starmer will regret trying to create a definition for working person so that he can... A lot of people, very quickly, I'll finish with this then. A lot of people think that they're just trying to change the definition so they can raise taxes on people who they've felt don't fall in that definition under their definition of it.
But yeah, the vast majority of people we're talking about go out to work, come home, pay the bills, and do worry about sudden spikes in the gas bill or food prices, or do worry about whether they get money for the school uniforms and so on. I mean, that's who we're talking about, who are working, and that's the people watching this who don't have assets, don't have multiple homes, don't have wealth stashed away in Monaco, don't have yachts. That's what we're talking about, just ordinary working people. And that's a reasonable turn of phrase. Different economists may have different ways of defining it, but we all know what we're talking about.
Perhaps you should have said that we all raise taxes on the super rich, because that would make more sense. Paul Richards, a pleasure as ever. He's not a former Labour special advisor, but he's a columnist.
No, I am a former special advisor.
Oh, you are? OK.
I am a former one, but you said I was a current one. Maybe one day. Maybe one day.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll clear that up now. Thank you, Paul. Take care. Lovely to talk to you. I think that's what I said, but never mind. All right, you're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Next, we'll continue with the Great British Debate. I'm asking you, do you believe that you are a working person?
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
A furious online debate has been sparked after, well, let's just say a rather large man, I mean, he really was big, was snapped trying to fit into his seat on the plane.
It's led to some to ask whether obese passengers should have to pay for extra plane seats so they don't inconvenience others.
Some say, though, that's cruel. So should plus-size passengers pay extra for plane seats? Let's talk to former presenter of Fat Families, Steve Miller, who's in Stratford-upon-Avon, and the director of All About Obesity, Sarah LeBrock, who's in beautiful Harrogate. Good to see you both this morning. Sarah, what do you think?
Well, we've had this debate before with Steve and I, to be fair, and I think it's one of those things where planes are just not fit for purpose anymore. So people's bodies have been growing over the years. We know this, the obesity rates are increasing, etc. But what's happening to planes is the seats are decreasing in size. So they're just not fit for purpose and not fit for the population. So I think it's just one of these things where we need to be more empathetic to people, that they're trying to fit into an environment that isn't shaped for them at all. So I think we do need to kind of say, well, what's right here? Is it the person not being able to fit in the seat, or is it the seat not being fit for purpose for the person? And I think we need to really, look at things from that perspective as well. Instead of thinking the person's doing something wrong, how about the environment might be doing something wrong?
Steve?
It's not about blaming, but the message you can't put out, in my opinion, is that it's okay to be obese and don't worry about it. You see, what I'm saying here is free plane seats. If you're offering free plane seats, an extra seat, that's going to normalise obesity.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon. If you just tuned in, where have you been? You've missed half the show, but it's fine. We've got an hour and a half left. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. 25 minutes after 4 o'clock. We will get to some of those on your say in just a moment. But it's time for the Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, do you believe that you are a working person? Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer suggested potential tax increases for individuals whose primary income comes from assets like shares and property, excluding them from the working person category. This is slightly different from what he said earlier. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do you believe that you are a working person? Well, joining me now, broadcaster and political commentator Jonathan Liss, and a columnist and broadcaster Lizzie Cundy.
You call me a broadcaster.
OK, I will do that. Amongst many lovely other things.
Lovely jumper.
None of which can be repeated.
Potentially working person.
Yes.
Do you believe you are a working person?
Well, I'm not doing this for free, Nana, so that by definition I'm working.
Right.
So yes, I'm a working person. And what this is trying to be, I suppose, is a distinction between the money that is earned actively by going to work, by doing a job, or by being self-employed or whatever, and by waking up in the morning and looking at your computer to see how much money you've earned overnight, which is passive income. That's all this is. Now, no one's saying that you shouldn't be able to have passive income or that you shouldn't be able to have shares or make a living from that. It's just about how the government prioritises where it's going to focus its tax rises, because everyone agrees that the government needs to find money. Most people agree, at least, that the government needs to find money. And one of the main ways the government finds money is by increasing or by raising taxes. And we know that. Right. So that means, in this case, increasing taxes, because we know that the public services are on the floor and they need money as well as reform. So we know that there needs to be tax rises in this country. No tax ever going to win a popularity contest. So the question the government has is, how does it target it most fairly? And it's not unjust for a Labour government to promote Labour and to tax other forms of income a little bit more.
Lizzie Cundy.
Jonathan. It's all double. It's all toil and trouble for Keir Starmer. He doesn't know what he's saying, does he? He doesn't know a working person. He can't answer the question. He looked like a scared rabbit in the headlights with a hernia yet again, because he's going over what he did before, like when he wouldn't answer what a woman is, and he got all in a flap about that.
Well, he did answer
and now it's happening again. Because you know that, yourself as a working person, Nana, I'd say you're very hard working.
We are working, we are right now.
But not in his eyes. He doesn't know what it is.
That doesn't matter.
I don't live in it, though.
It doesn't matter. People can have different forms of income.
But
right now, all of us are working.
But why is he using this confusing, loose language that gets himself in a pickle? And now everyone today is saying, are you a working person? Are we working people? It's becoming a joke, like the party. Can you not see that, Jonathan? It is so embarrassing.
It's embarrassing, Jonathan.
I really don't know. I really don't think so.
You don't think?
No, I think most people understand.
No. Because you can't speak for most people here. I think
most people understand.
Well, I think you're wrong, and I think a lot of people will be getting really sick of this claptrap now from Keir Starmer. He cannot define a working person. Somebody goes out to work, earns a living, is 2 paychecks away from whatever, and then doesn't have the ability to write a cheque or thing. Now later on, he's now saying it's where you get your money from that makes you not a working person. Landlords, they are working people, some of them professional landlords who have invested their own money to buying property so they can make money, but there'll be times when interest rates are high, they don't make as much. It's a very hard job.
It's passive income.
It's not passive income, I know, because it's a very hard job to do.
I'm not saying it's not hard, I'm saying it's not active income.
It's not passive income, and sometimes property prices go down. And also negative equity.
Well, that's a risk that landlords take.
Well, so it's OK to take a risk, but suddenly you're not a working person and your assets can be taxed irrespective of that.
But this makes sense, Jonathan. Do you not understand?
Sorry, I'd like Jonathan to...
Well, people have assets and they can be taxed fairly, and people go out and have active labour. Most people, I think, would understand that there's a difference between being a landlord and going out and having a job.
No,
it's not to say that landlords shouldn't. No, it's not patronising. It's just different. It's not patronising.
I actually think it's really demeaning. I think it's so demeaning. And he doesn't know what he's talking about, Jonathan. It's confusing him. It's confusing us all. He doesn't know what he's saying. Even my mother rang me today and said, look, I'm a working person. I've worked all my life. And I've worked doing... What does he mean? Everyone is saying the same thing, Jonathan. He's a fool. He doesn't know what he's doing. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm not sure everyone is saying that, but...
They are, believe me. And why start this working person, working people? It's now, we've got all memes of it. It's all going, and everyone's laughing at him.
All right, Lizzie, I don't know what to say to you. I think that I've given my defence of the concept. I'm not Keir Starmer's spokesman or speechwriter.
Even you are running away from it now.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that, look, I'm not here to defend every single word Starmer says. What I am prepared to do in this particular instance is to explain, from my perspective, what I think it means and why I think it might be justified to draw a distinction between active and passive income, which is not to say that passive income is bad. It's just to say that when you have to focus where you're going to raise money from, I think it's fairer to raise it from passive income rather than Labour.
Let's admit that they have taken themselves down a black hole where they said we're not going to raise national insurance, income tax or VAT. I think those are the three. So now they've realised that the only thing we can do is now try and find some spurious definition so that we can encompass other people or other things and raise unpopular taxes. One of them, workers' national insurance. So employers are expected to pay that. The employer who sets up his business, or she, they are working people.
Exactly. I'm just going to use my friend as an example who started up this wonderful little cafe in my village and employs people. And now she's like not a working person. She doesn't even give herself a wage. She works so hard, and you're just thinking all these small businesses are being penalised. And I'm sorry, Keir Starmer just seems to have no logic, no idea, and no brain.
Well, he must have a brain because he's breathing and talking, but
no, but
I'm not sure he's using it. I think that's the problem.
Okay, well, I don't really know how to argue with this on this, Lizzie. You're giving me your slogans and sound bites, and I disagree with you. I mean, what more can I say?
So you
I don't think that Starmer doesn't have a brain. I think that he disagrees with you, and that he has a different... It's his job and Rachel Reeves' job to decide how they're going to raise money, and obviously no tax is ever going to win a popularity contest. So,
but Jonathan, he lied before the election, didn't he? You have to admit.
About what? No.
Because he was saying there are no tax rises.
No,
We've got now 4,500 multi-millionaires leaving this country.
He didn't say no tax rises.
He's not going to raise taxes on working people.
Working people.
Exactly. He said, as you just said, before the election, and I thought this is stupid, and I said at the time, Labour boxed itself in by saying no increases on VAT, national insurance or income tax. Now, I would also say that when you are increasing employers' national insurance, that if you're an employee or self-employed, you won't notice that. You won't feel that.
All right,
so that doesn't count as raising national insurance.
Stop. You can't speak for other businesses of what they will or won't notice. I think that if you're paying more tax, you will always notice it. To be frank, I would have rather they raised a tiny bit on income tax and then that would be done with all this nonsense.
I'd have been very happy for that.
But they boxed themselves into a corner, and I think that's pretty stupid. But what do you think? gbnews.com/you'll say. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Next, another great British debate. And I'm asking, have Labour broken their manifesto promise? First, let's get your latest news headlines with Louise McKenzie.
Good afternoon, it's 4:30. I'm Louise McKenzie here in the GB newsroom. Now, 4 arrests have now been made in London following a day of protests in the capital. The Met say 2 of the arrests were made at the Uniting the Kingdom demonstration, one for being in breach of the Public Order Act and a breach for the peace, and another for a racially aggravated public order offence. The other 2 arrests were made for common assault at the Stand Up to Racism counter-protest. Sir Keir Starmer has warned Iran not to respond after Israel conducted precise strikes on military targets in the country overnight. The strikes against the Iranian regime come after Tehran launched a barrage of more than 180 ballistic missiles at Israel 3 weeks ago. Terror group Hamas has condemned Israel's attack on Iran, calling it a violation of Iran's sovereignty and a threat to regional security. But the IDF say they'll do whatever necessary to defend the state. And in other news, the PM has denied he was plotting a war against Middle Britain after suggestions that those who make an income from property or shares do not fall within his definition of working people. It comes after the Chancellor insists that Sir Keir Starmer is a working person and could be among those protected from the government's controversial tax hikes in the upcoming budget. Well, those have been your latest GB News headlines. I'm Lewis Mackenzie. More from me in half an hour's time.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. We've got a three-way split in the weather today. Rain in the northwest, sunnier for most towards the south, but it will be turning chillier for all of us on Sunday. Having a look at the bigger picture, we've got frontal systems out towards the south and east, but a cold front towards the northwest. And here we have heavy spells of rain sinking their way south and eastwards across Scotland, but later into northwest England, into Wales, but it will gradually sink its way southwards and start fizzling out. We may see some mist and fog patches across the southeast early through this evening, but those should clear. And in many places tonight, seeing a clear night, but temperatures will drop. We may see some mist and fog, but also some pockets of frost. So a colder but brighter start out there through Sunday for many of us. There will be some showers, especially across northern parts of Scotland, quite blustery as they move through. But across many places, still seeing some sunshine, but feeling colder out there to start Sunday morning. And then we have cloud and rain coming through across western parts later into Northern Ireland. Elsewhere though, across much of England and Wales, plenty of sunshine to start the day. And we hold on to that sunshine across much of England and Wales through Sunday, so plenty of autumnal sunshine out there. But further towards the west, especially across Northern Ireland and Scotland, it'll be turning increasingly cloudy and damp with outbreaks of rain moving through, persistent but also quite heavy over the hills. For all of us though, it is going to be feeling quite chilly out there. We'll see highs of 13 or 14 degrees in the south. As we go through Sunday evening, that cloud and rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland will continue to push in, affecting northwestern parts of England and into Wales later. But as we go into the week, higher pressure does start to dominate, but it'll be quite cloudy still, with temperatures close to average. Bye-bye.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets and My Take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. It's time for another great British debate this hour. And we're going to continue on the same vein. I'm Nana Akua, by the way. It's 39 after 4 o'clock. I'm asking, have Labour broken their manifesto promise? Chancellor Rachel Reeves is considering imposing national insurance on employer pension contributions, potentially raising 12 to 17 billion annually. But she did say she's not going to raise national insurance contributions, and they also said they won't raise taxes on working people. So the great British debate this hour, I'm asking, do you think that Labour have broken their manifesto promise? Well, joining me to discuss, columnist and broadcaster Lizzie Cundy, and also political commentator Jonathan Liss. Lizzie Cundy.
Well, yes, indeed. I do think they have broken it.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise. And when their lips move, they tend to be lying, this party. What they did to the pensioners, no one knew they'd do that. That was it's absolutely disgusting. I think they should return this straight away. It's going to affect 10 million. And, you you know what upsets me is that they pretended they were going to be this do-good party and make real good change, and everything so far has been for the worse. We've got obviously this 22 billion black hole that Rachel Reeves keeps harping on about.
Well,
I think she needs.
Now,
well, yeah, and now
We've
that's
got two,
become 40 billion. And Rachel Reeves seems to need some basic economic lessons. She seems to have forgotten the huge inflation busting pay she's given to the union. I mean, it's just one thing after another with this party, and I think it's really awful now that they've got the proposed national insurance tax increases that are going to affect so many businesses. I think it is a disgrace.
Well, you do know that Rachel Reeves got her company credit card suspended because she spent £4,000 of unauthorised transactions on it.
There you go.
And also somebody somewhere who worked with her, I think apparently in the Bank of England, said that she was well known for being useless. That's what it says. I was just reading that in the paper in the Telegraph earlier today. Those aren't my words. Jonathan, are they about to breach their manifesto promise with this NI?
No,
you don't
I don't think so. I think that I didn't agree with that manifesto commitment. I thought that it was foolish to box themselves in that way. But I don't believe that raising employer national insurance contributions would be a breach of the manifesto commitment, as most people would understand it. Now, people are free to disagree with that, obviously. As I said before, the government needs to raise money to fund National Health Service and other vital public services. Obviously, you need reform to rebuild those, but you also need money, and you're increasing the budget. It's just to stay still, particularly in the NHS. So one of the ways that the government can do that is by increasing borrowing, and I welcome Reeves's commitment to increase borrowing by up to £50 billion, provided with those guardrails that the Treasury is talking about, so that you can avoid the disaster that we saw 2 years ago with Liz Truss, for example. Though I don't think there was any risk of that anyway. By the way,
I don't know about that.
There was no risk of that anyway because it wasn't going to be because the markets had. I think they have faith in the way they didn't have faith before. These are not about tax cuts.
No.
It's not about day-to-day spending even. It's about long-term investment and infrastructure, which we vitally need to do in this country because we're falling behind and we're getting uncompetitive. So that's the first thing. But in terms of how the government raises money, borrowing is one of those ways, but raising taxes is obviously a key way. And so they're going to have to do that. And they have a limited range of options, unless they're going to be truly radical, which I'd obviously support by, for example, having some kind of wealth tax or financial transactions tax, or some of the taxes that can hit those with the broadest shoulders.
Jonathan, I don't know why they don't do that. If they can genuinely make those with the broadest shoulders pay the largest burden, then they should be looking at companies like Amazon, who didn't really pay as much
100%.
tax,
100%.
or some of those other big oil companies and those sort of companies who are making money literally by just being there and existing. Those people are asset rich, and that's what they should be targeting. But why they're targeting the majority of people who exist within the middle class, who are the exact working person that he is talking about, it makes no sense.
And why give those huge inflation-busting pay out to the train drivers and the junior doctors at a time like this?
Stop 2 years of industrial unrest.
Huge, and then just leave our pensioners to freeze this Christmas. It's truly the cruelest government, and I think he's one of our worst prime ministers I've ever known, to be honest. And the cronyism as well. Don't forget the two-facedness with all of Freebiegate, and he's there, the working class hero in his freebie suit and glasses. It doesn't wash, Jonathan.
I don't think he's ever claimed to be a working class hero.
Oh, he has. He's the son of a toolmaker. I think his father owned the company.
I don't think he's ever used the phrase working class hero. Clearly he doesn't come from a privileged background. I think we can all agree with that.
Well, hang on, no, we can't all agree with that. I think, having read reports, that his father actually was the boss of the tool-making company, so it wasn't that he's the son of a toolmaker who was a working person, because I don't think he's a working person, because he owned the company, so he's not really a working person under his definition. So he wasn't really. So the assets that his dad would have had would have been taxed under his own thing, because his dad wouldn't be a working person.
I think that we can... I think that Lizzie's characterisation of the government is unfair, and that obviously governments will get things wrong.
Say that to the
but
pensioners, Jonathan.
Well,
I don't think they would think
Lizzie,
that.
I've said many times that I don't agree with that policy, and I hope that they will reverse it. And just as I hope that they'll reverse the two-child benefit cap, and all kinds of things that a Labour government should be doing. That was a very foolish first step by Reeves.
Right, you
and
look
Starmer.
at this budget,
It
the
doesn't mean
gloom
that
and doom.
doesn't mean that everything they've done is bad.
Look, him in the Rose Garden, at the gloom and doom of this coming budget, he's scaring everyone to death. The wealth is leaving this country, Jonathan,
Well,
and
we'll
they
find out what
drove to
happens on
Dubai,
Wednesday.
Portugal.
We don't actually know what's in the budget yet.
Well,
We'll
let's see.
find out.
Let's hope it's not a Black Wednesday, because I think that Rachel Reeves is doing everything in her power to avoid what happened to Liz Truss happened to her, but by leaking this information out gradually. But I'm not so sure that tactic's going to work. But what do you think? gbnews.com/you'll say. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are live on TV, online, and on digital radio. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to get the latest from the Middle East. We'll be speaking to Uri Geller. Stay with me.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We are now delighted to be joined by comedian and my beautiful friend, Francine Lewis, who's here to share with us her upcoming book, The Last Laugh, and an exciting competition in collaboration with none other than that mean Simon Cowell. Francine,
He's not so mean anymore.
Oh, is he not?
He's not. And do you know what?
Since having a child, is it maybe?
Definitely. It's really weird because I really liked Simon. He was nasty. I just found that, I don't know, quite sexy. Now he's way too nice. Way too nice.
That's what they say, isn't it? You get all the nice guys say, I never get any luck with women, and they always say I'm too nice.
Do you know what? The truth is, I've always thought Simon was lovely. He's such a nice guy. Like, when I was doing Britain's Got Talent, I was very, very excited, you know, to meet Simon again because it was the second time I'd actually met him. And I always thought he was such a charming, lovely man.
Of course, you are more recently well known for BGT and your impressions and whatnot.
Do you know what? I do watch a lot of reality TV, a lot of that sort of stuff.
What do you watch?
I love Towie, whenever Love Island's on. Seriously, honeys, 100% definitely. You got to watch Essie. It's all about Towie, love it, seriously. So I'm always doing, you know, whatever the new reality shows are.
The favourite is Katie Price, and we've got a video. I think we've got a selfie video of us doing.
Have we?
Yeah, we have. From
I'm showing
years ago.
Tatiana to Katie Price, which she does amazingly. Come on, Tatiana, let's...
No, I don't.
Tatiana!
Katie, there's a mixture between Katie Price and Tatiana.
What do you think? I love when people take me off. It shows what a big star I am.
It's the lick of the lips.
The People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
48 minutes after 4 o'clock. Welcome. This is GB News. Now, of course, the Israeli military had said that Hezbollah fired approximately 80 rockets at the country just hours after the IDF launched airstrikes at military facilities in Iran. Iran has vowed revenge for Israel's strikes on Tehran, saying it is entitled and obligated to defend itself against external aggressive acts. Well, let's cross over live to Tel Aviv and speak to Uri Geller. Uri, thank you very much for joining me. So, Uri, really good to see you.
Thank you.
Talk to me. What's on your mind? What's been happening?
Let me tell you. Look, Nana, as you know, we hit Iran. Everybody knew it was going to happen. And last night, we did it. let me tell you, this is the first time in history, that our warplanes have directly attacked Iran, and every one of them came back safely. Look, our planes flew probably about 1,000 miles there and 1,000 miles back. That is incredible, because that is actually much further than they are able to fly without refueling. I do not know how they did it. This is a mystery. Now, we don't yet know exactly what Israel hit. What I'm hearing is that we hit missile launchers, missile factories, and possibly air defense systems. And this comes from my very private sources. But look, Nana, I'm very disappointed at the scale of this attack. Look, we had a golden opportunity to carry out a massive attack on Iran. But what we did is a pinprick by comparison. Crazy. We should have destroyed its nuclear sites, bombed its oil refineries, and flattened the homes of all its leaders. We have the capability to do that. And that is what we should have done. And we didn't. Look, if we weakened the regime, it would create an opportunity for the Iranian people to rise up and topple the tyrants. But it might be possible that what Israel has done, now listen to this, is actually to prepare for a bigger attack. Look at this. If we have destroyed Iran's air defenses, we can now hit Iran much harder without the threat of our planes being shot down. I just want to end by saying one more thing, Nana, and this is shocking. Apparently, Israel had to delay its attack because someone inside the American administration in the Pentagon, Nana, in the Pentagon, leaked intelligence about Israel's plans. This is unbelievable. Someone high up in Biden's government, which is meant to be Israel's closest ally, we all know that, is deliberately leaking secret information. Look, there is no doubt there is an anti-Israel spy at work in the US government. Maybe more than one or two. And the government, guess what, has done nothing about it. I'm sure that many Iranian spies are operating in the US government. We are less than 2 weeks away, Nana, from the US election. And if Kamala Harris wins, God forbid, all these people, all these spies in the government who hate Israel will just carry on. It will be a disaster for peace in the Middle East, and it will be a disaster for the world. Before I sign off, Nana, please allow me. This is my new tarot card. All proceeds are going to a charity called Save a Child's Heart. Please get one, because you will be helping a child go through open heart surgery. I love you all, sending you positive energy from the Holy Land.
All right, Louise, thank you so much. Of course, I don't have confirmation of those reports of a leak in that manner, but thank you for your view, those Louise's thoughts. He's there in a war zone, live in Tel Aviv. It's so good to speak to him. Well, listen, lots of you have been getting in touch with your thoughts. Gillian Sharp, she says, am I considered a working person, as I am not yet taking a pension, but I have retired as I do have my military pension and I have worked hard for 48 years. Starmer and his band of not so many men have no clue how to define the term. They have dug themselves yet into another very big hole. I think a lot of people would concur with that. There we go. Martin says there is one fact: political commentators are most certainly not workers. So that means Jonathan and Lizzie, they're not working people, according to him. Sylvie says his father was a toolmaker and no bigger. I'm not going to say any more than that, but you can guess the rest. And Neddy says, I love you, Nana. And Lizzie speaks her mind. But he loves all of us here, including Jonathan. I've slightly tweaked that. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. In the next hour, joining me, we'll be discussing claims as to whether black communities are traumatised after the Kaba incident.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. We've got a three-way split in the weather today. Rain in the northwest, sunnier for most towards the south, but it will be turning chillier for all of us on Sunday. Having a look at the bigger picture, we've got frontal systems out towards the south and east, but a cold front towards the northwest. And here we have heavy spells of rain sinking their way south and eastwards across Scotland, but later into northwest England, into Wales, but it will gradually sink its way southwards and start fizzling out. We may see some mist and fog patches across the southeast early through this evening, but those should clear. And in many places tonight, seeing a clear night, but temperatures will drop. We may see some mist and fog, but also some pockets of frost. So a colder but brighter start out there through Sunday for many of us. There will be some showers, especially across northern parts of Scotland, quite blustery as they move through. But across many places, still seeing some sunshine, but feeling colder out there to start Sunday morning. And then we have cloud and rain coming through across western parts later into Northern Ireland. Elsewhere though, across much of England and Wales, plenty of sunshine to start the day. And we hold on to that sunshine across much of England and Wales through Sunday, so plenty of autumnal sunshine out there. But further towards the west, especially across Northern Ireland and Scotland, it'll be turning increasingly cloudy and damp with outbreaks of rain moving through, persistent but also quite heavy over the hills. For all of us though, it is going to be feeling quite chilly out there. We'll see highs of 13 or 14 degrees in the south. As we go through Sunday evening, that cloud and rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland will continue to push in, affecting northwestern parts of England and into Wales later. But as we go into the week, higher pressure does start to dominate, but it'll be quite cloudy still, with temperatures close to average. Bye-bye.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We could be delivering the perfect Christmas to you this year. First, we'll give you £20,025 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you £5,000 to spend on all of your Christmas presents, with a further £500 in vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. You'll get it all in time for the big day. For your chance to win, call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2, or post your name and number to GB09 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 22nd of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about.
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry, tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes. Thank you for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's just coming up to 5 o'clock. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next few hours, me and my panel, in fact, only the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the final hour, political commentator Jonathan Liss, and also columnist and broadcaster Lizzie Cundy. On today's show, thousands have taken to the streets of London to protest against mass immigration. They're being met by anti-racism and Chris Kaba demonstrators. We will cross live to see what is happening with the protests right now. GB News can also exclusively reveal that more Channel migrants have reached UK this year than in the whole of last year. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I've been asking, can Sir Keir Starmer's government really smash the gangs? The poll is still up on gbnews.com/poll. I will get that result towards the end of the show. Then, for difficult conversations, joining me, political commentator Chris Rose, for his thoughts as the BBC claims that black communities are traumatised after a police officer was cleared of gun gangster Chris Kaba's murder. And we've been discussing this throughout, but what is a working person?
Working people is people who earn their living, rely on our services and don't really have the ability to write a cheque when they get into trouble. So the sort of people I'm meeting pretty well every day now.
Yeah, that just makes me laugh every time. I bet I wish you hadn't started that, but before we get started, let's get your latest news with Louise McKenzie.
Thank you very much, Nana. Good afternoon. It's just after 5 o'clock. I'm Louise McKenzie here in the GB newsroom. Now, 4 arrests have now been made in London following a day of protests in the capital. The Met says 2 of the arrests were made at the Uniting the Kingdom demonstrations, one for being in breach of the Public Order Act and breach of the peace, and the other for racially aggravated public order offence. The other 2 arrests were made for common assault at the Stand Up to Racism counter protest. Downing Street says escalation is in no one's interest after Israel conducted precise strikes on military targets in Iran overnight. The strikes against the Iranian regime come after Tehran launched a barrage of more than 180 ballistic missiles at Israel 3 weeks ago. Terror group Hamas has condemned Israel's attack on Iran, calling it a violation of Iran's sovereignty and a threat to regional security. But the IDF says they'll do whatever is necessary to defend the state. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, says the UK is monitoring the situation and warns Iran not to respond.
Israel does have the right to defend itself, but we are urging and have been urging all sides to show restraint. Iran should not respond. We will continue to work with allies to de-escalate the situation across the region.
In other news, the Prime Minister has denied he was plotting a war against Middle Britain after suggestions that those who make an income from property or shares do not fall within his definition of working people. It comes after the Chancellor insisted that Sir Keir Starmer is a working person and could be among those protected from the government's controversial tax hikes in the upcoming budget. The mother of a teenager killed in the Nottingham stabbings has branded an episode of the BBC Panorama as shameful. Emma Webber, whose 19-year-old son, Barnaby, seen on the left here, was killed last year. She says the families were not properly consulted about the episode. The documentary featured an interview with the killer's family and has now been nominated for a range of journalism awards.
he loved his family and we love him and we miss him so much that I don't think there's any words that could ever convey how much that boy is loved and missed. But what we will do is we will get justice. Wes Streeting wrote to the Director General of the BBC with his concerns when he found out a week before that this was airing and that we hadn't been involved. You know, that there's no duty of care to us, despite what they say in their right to reply statement. And I can't believe that that's our BBC that have done that to us. You would think that Panorama would have learned from past mistakes.
Well, the BBC has responded to that interview, saying we have the deepest sympathy for the families, and the Panorama team has been extremely mindful of the sensitivities in handling this programme. This investigation was very much in the public interest, and the documentary has been produced in accordance with the BBC's editorial guidelines. Well, those have been your latest GB News headlines. I'm Louise McKenzie. Now it's back to more fiery debate with Nana Akua.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. Right, so there's loads still to come. There have been clashes amongst protesters in the capital today. Our reporter was there. We'll get the latest. Then difficult conversations with political commentator Chris Rose, and we may be speaking to Ken Hines as well. He's the chair of Haringey's Independent Stop and Search Monitoring Group. We'll be getting their thoughts on the BBC's claims that black communities are traumatised after a police officer was cleared of gun gangster Chris Kaba's murder. Then, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is British policing broken? And, of course, we'll get our panellists to pit themselves against each other in the quiz. Send me your thoughts, post your comments, gbnews.com/you'll say. So there's been big protests on the streets of London as part of an anti-immigration protest organised on behalf of Tommy Robinson, who won't be attending. He's been arrested under terrorism charges. It's been met by Stand Up to Racism demonstrators. Well, the Met Police have said that there have been 4 arrests in total, 2 from each side. GB News reporter Sophie Reaper was at the demonstrations and sent us this report.
The police presence in the capital city has been incredibly high today as the Met Police have had to contend with multiple protests. They told me earlier that they brought in police forces from around the UK in order to give themselves some support. They've also given each of the protests very strict restrictions about where they can march, where they can stop. All of them also have to be dispersed by 6 o'clock this evening. So very, very shortly, these protests will all be coming to an end. And that is to try and prevent any trouble from taking place here in the capital. Now, on that note, today it's been relatively calm, relatively peaceful, but in the last couple of hours there has been a brief spell of violence that the police have had to become involved in. There have also been multiple arrests at both the Stand Up to Racism protest here at Whitehall and the Uniting the Kingdom protest taking place over on Parliament Square. There have, of course, been multiple questions about why these 2 protests, one a protest organised and linked with Tommy Robinson, the other organised as a counter-protest. There have been these questions about why they've both been allowed to take place on the same day, and now that we've seen this spell of violence, there will be questions, even further questions, about why they were allowed to go ahead.
That was Sophie Reaper. She was at the protest. Well, joining me now is social campaigner Winston Davis. Winston, welcome to the programme. So there we have it, the protesters equally. I mean, in my view, they actually want the same thing. One wants a united kingdom, so everybody's united. And the other one wants the united, that we're all united together. I mean, these 2 groups are actually asking for the same thing, so I don't understand why they're clashing with each other.
So my understanding of it is really that, and the basic understanding is that the side that is been organised by Tommy Robinson want a united country, want the country to be better, which all of us do.
Absolutely.
But however, it excludes certain groups, or mainly if they're Muslims in our country. And
where did they say that?
Well, that's what I'm saying, basically, because it's a lot of anti-Islamic. So, you know, say they talk about the child grooming gangs, they talk about, you know, the challenge of Sharia law come to this country and whatever danger of it. That's what I see, and
But they should be talking. Look, everyone should be talking about the grooming gangs. The police should have been talking about it. The people in Rotherham, everyone should have been talking about the grooming gangs. And nobody was until people like Tommy Robertson. And I know GB News have talked a lot about it as well. Our reporter Charlie Peters has done investigative reports on it. People should have been talking about it. So this is not wrong.
But yeah, the problem is though every Muslim in this country is a suspected groomer. Every Muslim in this country.
But nobody said that.
But that's the kind of feeling it is.
But I don't... Look, I see this, but I don't see that.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't believe that is the feeling. I think that what they were pointing out was that specifically those grooming gangs, those specific gangs, were by mostly Pakistani men.
Yeah.
That's what they were saying. They're not saying that all Pakistani men are groomers or that there are more of those than there are British. It was simply pointing out a reality, the factual information about that specific case.
Yeah, but when I hear Tommy Robertson talking and he's giving interviews and stuff, he's saying against Islam as a religion and against the main people, you know, prophets in Islam, right? My thing is this: you can't be against the whole religion, right? You can have your view on it, 100%. But my thing is, I've met some really great Muslims, really great Christians, really great Jewish people. Your religion has nothing to do with you as a person, and you can't be thinking a whole group of people.
No, but you can reject a religion, so you can say, I don't like this particular religion. Look, I studied theology and philosophy, and I came away not particularly liking much about Christianity in the end. A lot about the Roman Catholic faith and some of the Church of England and stuff like that. That doesn't mean that I don't like people who are of that faith. It just might be in a faith that I don't particularly like, and that is allowed.
My feeling with it, and this is personal, is that you can't bring people together using things which come from a negative, hateful place. That's my feeling of it.
That's what you feel.
It's a negative, hateful place, rather than saying, do you know what? Listen, we're all different. We're all different races, religions, with different sexual orientations. We're all different. We're on this island. Let's come together on this island, accept our differences.
But that's what this was. And actually, the protest kind of focused on the mass immigration aspect, which are mostly people coming here on small boats illegally, which most people who I speak to, irrespective of colour, in fact, my mother in particular is really angry that people are coming here in this manner because it's not fair on the British taxpayers. I think that's the angle of that protest. And I think the problem is people feel that just because they are at this protest, they then suddenly become some sort of racist, when that's not what this is about.
Yeah, and I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but at the same time, just from a layman's point of view, when you look at it like, well, the way they come across is they are against a religion, and it's like you are.
No, but they're talking about mass immigration. This protest was anti the whole immigration stuff with regard to the boats and things like that.
I've been watching some of it this afternoon. No one else going to come on. I started watching some of it live, and in fairness, it was a peaceful.
It was peaceful.
I'm watching it. It's peaceful. There are people singing. There's people.
Exactly.
But then it been interluding with that. You've got videos playing which is talking about the different issues there are, and it's talking about two-tier systems of policing. And,
there is a two-tier. That's what I see. But
that's what you see. But there was one of them which was a hand-picked thing saying, how the justice was meted out into the riots of this summer. Right, and saying, that doesn't relate to how other people have been treated, other groups have been treated. But when you actually relate that back to the one that's most similar to the riots in the summer, i.e. the 2011 riots, the sentences in 2011 are actually higher than this year here.
Yeah.
And so there isn't necessarily a two-tier system when you look back at the last 10 years.
I don't know. I think they're more talking about the behaviour of Keir Starmer, literally giving ratas, chucking them in jail, but then kind of letting out all sorts of
We've got to come together, Nana. As a country, you've got to come together.
But this is what but they're called Unite the Kingdom. That's what they were saying. So Unite the Kingdom means everybody. They're not saying specifically, oh, no Muslims or this or that. It's called Unite the Kingdom. And then Stand Up to Racism are saying that we want to stand up to racism. But Unite the Kingdom, if you're uniting a kingdom, is an anti-racist slogan. It's not a racist slogan.
So here's one for you. I believe that generally working class people in this country for many, many years, despite your race and religion's point of view, have been marginalised and pushed down, and the people right at the top have been benefited from it. Even this going on now, even this discussion benefits the ones right at the top.
What? Because we are talking about...
Because we're fighting, divide and conquer.
No, it's not. I'm not fighting with you. I'm
not saying you are. I'm not saying we are.
I'm saying that people have a right to say that they're not happy with the way the government are handling the small boat crisis, which is actually today we have overtaken last year's figures for people who came here on small boats. Now, I'm not happy with people, first of all, taking a dangerous crossing, so putting their lives at risk. Secondly, though, I think they're taking advantage of the British generosity, which I don't like, when there are some safe and legal routes and people who are coming from the safety of France, and also many of those on the boats are not coming from any countries that are being terrorised, like Vietnam.
Keir Starmer says he's going to sort the small boats out. He's been in power for 3 months now. Let's see what he does in the next few months, because something has to be done about that, 100%.
Well, that's what people are complaining about. That's the main, for me, the main crux when I see people there. That's what they're all talking about.
I'm not sure.
You're not sure. Well, listen, you know, well, that's...
We're all entitled to our opinion. That's the whole point of this programme.
I'm not arguing with you not being sure.
Yeah.
I think, I'm not sure you don't need to be. I'm not sure either, but I'm sure of one thing, that I'm not happy with the small boat situation, and I think people should have the right to complain about that, because that's not on.
Everyone's entitled to free speech.
Yeah, everyone's entitled to free speech, of course. Yeah, so what's your point?
That's freedom. You crack on.
It's good of him. Right, stay with us. Next, my difficult conversation. Joining me, political commentator Chris Rose, for his thoughts as BBC claims that black communities are traumatised after a police officer was cleared of a gun gangster Chris Kaba's murder. Stay with me.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss My Big Opinion, Mark Meets, and My Take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Well, the first thing on in my mind when I heard about this is, what has this country come to when we're talking about getting kids as young as 6 years old to be jabbed weekly, or however often it is, because they are too fat? Where are the parents in all of this? There's three things actually here that are important. Number one is we do not know the long-term consequences of these jabs. So if I had a child and I was going to let them have the jab, I would be feeling like I'm treating them like a lab rat, to be quite honest with you, because we don't know the long-term consequences. Secondly, the manufacturers are clear that some of the potential side effects can be very serious. We're talking about potentially pancreatitis, let's get my word out, and also it lists as a potential side effect thyroid cancer. Arguably, it's called the gamble jab, to be honest with you, because of these potential side effects at the moment. And then thirdly, I come back to the parents. Where are the parents in all of this? Because they are the role models. So it really is about parenting, and it's about parenting from being a role model yourself in terms of being slim and healthy, and not expecting a jab to take your place and other people to take your place. If you have children, they are your responsibility. Think before you breed. The other thing you need to remember with this is, when you stop taking that jab, it is highly likely that you're going to put all the weight back on. Now, the thought of a child of 6 years of age, starting with that jab, conditioning them mentally to live with that jab, as far as I'm concerned, is absolutely not on.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Budget Day on GB News on Wednesday. Stay with us all day for the most anxiously anticipated budget in a generation.
Morning through to evening, we'll be here with insight and analysis, crunching the numbers
as we work out the cost to the country and, most importantly, to you.
Because the Chancellor has a bill to pay. The question is,
who's going to pay it? Budget Day all day Wednesday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. If you just tuned in, where have you been? We're near the end of the show, but it's 20 minutes after 5 o'clock. Really good to have your company. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. And it's time now for this week's Difficult Conversations. Now, the BBC have come under fire for an article that claimed that black communities were really traumatised after a police officer was cleared of murdering Chris Kaba. Now, Kaba, a gang member who gunned down a rival in a nightclub a week before his death in 2022, was shot by a policeman when he tried to ram his way past police in South London. Now, a jury at the Old Bailey took just 3 hours to clear Sergeant Blake of his murder. Well, I'm joined now in the studio by political commentator Chris Rose to get his thoughts on that. Got somebody in the background as well. Go on, get out of the way. Random. Right, Chris Rose, thank you very much for joining me. I feel like I know you because I've read a lot of your social media stuff. Let's start with the whole Chris Kaba incident. Now, in your view, was it right that that he was shot? Just in your view?
I think it was right, yes, and I think it's appalling what the police officer had to go through just to clear his name. I mean, the BBC says that we're all traumatised, apparently, because of the comments of one person. But in actual fact, it was right for them to intervene, because if he was still alive, the people who most likely would have died if he had carried on this violent spree would have been black people. And for some reason, when black-on-black crime happens, they never say we're traumatised. Like, for example, in the Notting Hill Carnival, we had 2 black people, innocent, who died as a result of black-on-black violence. They wasn't reported as traumatised at all. For some reason, it's just never spoken about. You know, Sadiq Khan gives one little statement, then he moves on. With Chris Kaba, he seems to be very emotionally involved in it because he wants his whole... he wants that moment where he wants a George Floyd type of feeling here, but that didn't happen, and I think he's disappointed at that.
Well, I mean, obviously Sadiq Khan would say that he's there looking after the interests of Londoners, which is why he was concerned. Maybe that could be his defence of what he might say. But he wasn't alone in it. You had Diane Abbott coming out in support for this man 2 years ago. You had Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah, of course.
Her ex-boyfriend or whatever.
The wrong side of history, as always.
You have all the usual suspects. A lot of people, mainly on the left, coming out, and Black Lives Matter, coming out as though this is something that black people are all in agreement with, that Chris Kaba... I mean, if Black Lives Matter, if Black Lives really mattered, why was Chris Kaba killing black people?
That's the thing, I mean, he's...
It only matters unless you're killed by a white person.
Yes, that's the thing. I mean, it's Chris, he's been in crime since he was the age of 13. His mother of his child took out a restraining order because he was apparently involved in domestic violence as well. He's not a figure that black people should really look up to at all. You know, frankly, a lot of these people who Black Lives Matter seem to defend have criminal past as well. So, you know, I think, where's the defence for the innocent black people who died? You know, people who actually did have a good career ahead of them, who would be shot dead at the result of black-on-black violence. We don't hear enough about these victims. It's always the ones with criminals who makes, you know, I think it does more damage to the black community than it does any good as well. And
the notion that there is and I say this when we say it, Muslim community or this community, look, we are all really different. If you go to Africa, you will see that this people hate those people, and that it's just like the rivalry that you have in this country, where you have the English and the Scottish and the Irish, and you know, so it's odd that there seems to be this notion that you'd expect us all, because we've all got a similar kind of skin, to all be thinking the same thing and all be from one community, which the BBC are now saying how traumatised we all are. I'm not traumatised over the death of this man.
I'm not as well. I'm
all right with it.
I think London is actually safer without him, to be honest. And, you know, they say the black community, but when you look at the Black Lives Matter activist who was shot in the head a couple of years ago, and there were black people who witnessed the crime, but no one came forward because they fear for their lives. You know, I think, well, could nobody come forward to give a statement to put the black people who shot her behind bars? They don't ever do that. It's always this false notion of the black community, no justice, no peace, but there's a lot of no justice for black-on-black crime. It's just white-on-black crime that we want justice for, and it's just...
It's absurd because there was a gentleman who died in prison. I can't remember his name now. A white gentleman who died in prison after the riots. But he died in prison Nobody's talking about that. He died in prison. But there's a very small conversation about this poor man who was arrested just... Peter Lynch, his name was. Yeah, Peter Lynch. Yeah. Not much of a conversation about. There's no big protests or no big thing happening at all much for this poor guy that died in police custody whilst he was in prison. Yeah, well, there's no big protest or people politicians coming out to speak about this at all. And he was not a real criminal, was he? This is his first thing that he'd done.
Yeah, there's no criminal past either.
No.
I think there's overly harsh conviction as well. And there's also another one where a young lady who worked in a migrant hotel, she was stabbed allegedly over a row about some packet of biscuits. And I think to myself, where's all the politicians lining up to say, make sure this doesn't happen again? There's no protests outside. You don't see any white middle-class activists coming out to say, oh, let's make sure that doesn't happen either. They're always very selective about it. It's always career criminals that they want to have justice for, and not for innocent citizens.
Even today in the stand-up against racism, or to racism, whichever way you want to look at it, but even today, there they were, protesting alongside, those who were protesting because of Chris Kaba. And it's like, I don't get it.
No, I don't get it either. I mean, I just don't get why they're so involved in someone who, if he was still alive, would still be killing other black people.
Yeah, killing other black people. This is the thing. And the police, a lot of the police are white and all colours, but mostly the officers are white. Yeah. And they're going in to intervene and save the lives of black people.
That's the thing. I think, in a way, the mentality is they just can't view black people as ever guilty. We're always innocent. That's why...
Or we're always victims, which is what Kemi Badenoch was saying, that there's this notion that black people should be constantly viewed as victims. I'm not a victim. You're not a victim.
No.
Chris Kaba has victims. He created victims.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, we're not victims. Frankly, if I pick up a gun and shoot another black person, I'm no longer a victim. I am guilty and should pay the penalty for that. And that's what Chris Kaba is. He's not a victim. As far as I'm aware, as I said, London is safer without him. I think they've probably done a favour to the black community because he can't go on and kill other black people. So I think, yes, it's...
Although people would argue that... So there are those who argue that it was unfair and that he shouldn't have been shot, he was unarmed, although you may view a car as a weapon, depending on how it's being used. But I'm joined now by co-chair of Haringey Independent Stop and Search Monitoring Group, Ken Hines. Ken Hines, welcome to the programme. Thank you so much for joining me. What are your thoughts on this, then, Ken?
I'm really astounded by your... TV studio guests, his attitude towards all of a sudden making Chris Kaba a killer, even though there's no record of him killing anybody. And the simple fact is, when are we going to start having judged by soundbite that the police put out there? The police have done what I would term is a character assassination of Chris Kaba, right? And this here, they're deflecting it from what the real argument is. It's not about Chris Kaba because they didn't know who was in the car. So whoever was in the car would have probably ended up with the same result. An officer who overreacted. He went above his station. Whatever, I don't know what he was going through, but whatever he did there was not right.
So you said it's a character assassination, Ken. But was Chris Kaba not involved in a shooting, which was caught on CCTV only, I think it was days before, where he shot someone in a nightclub once inside the club, then chased the man and shot them outside the club as well? And was he not just about to stand for trial for that attempted murder?
No, listen, I don't know if that was Chris Kaba in the picture.
Well, they're saying that it was. They're saying that it was, and nobody's defending him on that.
That's why you also have a jury trial to establish the facts. The police are very good at giving misinformation. We have seen this time and time again when a person loses their life
But he's caught on
untimely.
CCTV and he's identified as as that. I mean, he's caught on CCTV.
Look, I'm just telling you, I couldn't recognise him from that, but that's what they're telling us to believe. But it wasn't tried in court. It was tried in the public court.
Ken, it wasn't tried in court because he was driving a car that had been involved in a shooting only days previous.
Let me ask you a question. If he was such a wrong-un, what on earth, and the police had so much intelligence, what was he doing walking on our streets and not lifted way before this, if the police had that sort of intelligence? How much more damage was he meant to do? Or was it just okay for him to keep it in the black community? And these are the questions I'm asking. My thing also is about accountability. Because I don't not talk so much about Chris Kaba, I'm thinking about the next victim to come along, where then his name is going to be rubbish yet again, become overnight a sensational big gangster, not only in London but in Europe, like they made Mark Duggan out to be. These things has to stop. We have to stop gaslighting and sit down and look at the facts.
Okay, so
someone has lost their life, and families are grieving.
Would you be happier than if perhaps one of the officers had lost their lives whilst he was ramming the car forward and back? One of them was in the triangle of death, which is what they call it. Would that have been better?
Let me say this much. They boxed him in. The car was going nowhere.
Well, that's because he got stopped. He was boxed in.
He got stopped.
So he got stopped by the police.
And listen, he couldn't even get out the car if he wanted to.
No, he could. But he could because the doors were there. He just had to open the door.
He could not get out the car. But my thing is simply this, that even, and it says it quite clearly, that the car behind, when he was trying to reverse, the car sped up even closer to stop him from being able to reverse.
But he's been
the situation, it was contained.
But Ken, you've missed the point. He's been stopped by the police in a car that was involved in a shooting. You don't then try and ram forward and back and try and escape. And if you're in that situation, then you're obviously up to some sort of no good. Are you honestly defending that?
You're taking another step. You're making out like the person in the car knew that car was flagged up or was it involved in a firearm incident a day or two before. It doesn't equate. I could have been driving that car.
That's not my point.
I'm not being aware that it had a tag on it.
No, Ken, that's not my point.
My thing simply this.
If we both talk at the same time, then we'll hear us.
When the chase started, they did not have the siren on or any lights on to indicate that there were police.
But they are police cars.
It could have been an ops. If he's in that lifestyle, he could have think it's their ops chasing him, right?
Okay.
And so therefore,
come on, listen, Ken.
happens.
You're trapped. You've been stopped by the police. The cars are either side of you. You are now ramming back and forth, back and forth. They don't know who you are, but they know the car's been involved in a shooting, which is why armed officers are there, and it's quite a rigmarole to get the armed officers there. This is not the correct behaviour. If you're really innocent, you stop the car, you sit in the car. Had he been shot, just sitting in that car and doing nothing, I would agree with you. But he didn't, did he?
Imagine a question. He went down, he took a left, not indicating he's taking a left, but the left he took, the police was already waiting for him. How is that possible?
Because he was driving a car involved in a shooting. That's why they were chasing him.
No, but it doesn't matter. How would they know he's taking that left? Why couldn't he take the right or something the other or gone? What would have happened then? But the police got out the car and they were waiting for him.
Well, because he's driving a car. Listen, I get that there has been racism and things like that within the police force. Nobody's saying that the police force have not got its issues. But on this specific occasion, Ken, you have to admit that his behaviour was not conducive to a good outcome.
You cannot tell me that we have to accept summary execution by the words of the police to say he was a wronger, right? By public opinion, he's done us a favour. They've done us no favours because I tell you what, I came from bad stuff and I managed to turn my life around. Now, again, I don't know what he was involved in and I don't know what kind of trauma or other things of fear he may have. When you're fearful, people react in different ways. And quite clearly in that situation,
I hear you. Listen, Ken, we could chat about this all day. I really appreciate you giving me your side of things, and I hear the passion that you have for that. That is the brilliant Ken Hines. He's the co-chair for Haringey Independent Stop and Search. Well, just to correct that, actually, Chris Kaba did not murder anybody, as far as we know. So we don't know whether he actually killed somebody. So just to correct that from the record. But what are your thoughts briefly on what he had to say?
I don't think it's a character assassination. Just bringing up someone's history record is not a character assassination. That's just the truth. That's who he was. That's how he behaved in real life. And I don't think it doesn't make him in a good light, but that's the life he chose to have. And obviously, the more you're involved in crime, the higher the chance of having a police altercation. So the best thing I could honestly advise is, if you don't want to end up like Chris Kaba, just don't do crime at all. You know, if you can, just clean up your life and be a good father so your son doesn't go down that path of crime, and, you know, you won't end up like Chris Kaba.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your clarity, Chris Rose.
Thank you.
Really lovely to talk to you. That is, of course, political commentator Christopher Rose. Right, 34 after 5 o'clock. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. Still to come. We'll continue with a great British debate. I'm asking, is British policing broken? But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Louise McKenzie.
Thank you very much, Nana. Good afternoon. It's just after 5:30. I'm Louise McKenzie here in the GB newsroom. Now, 4 arrests have now been made in London following a day of protests in the capital. The Met say 2 of the arrests were made at the Uniting the Kingdom demonstration. 1 for being in breach of the Public Order Act and breach of the peace, and another for a racially aggravated public order offence. The other 2 arrests were made for common assault at the Stand Up to Racism counter-protest. Now, Sir Keir Starmer has warned Iran not to respond after Israel conducted precise strikes on military targets in the country overnight. The strikes against the Iranian regime come after Tehran launched a barrage of more than 180 ballistic missiles at Israel 3 weeks ago. Terror group Hamas has condemned Israel's attack on Iran, calling it a violation of Iran's sovereignty and a threat to regional security. But the IDF says they'll do whatever is necessary to defend the state. And finally, the PM has denied he was plotting a war against Middle Britain after suggestions that those who make an income from property or shares do not fall within his definition of working people. It comes after the Chancellor insists that Sir Keir Starmer is, in fact, a working person and could be among those protected from the government's controversial tax hikes in the upcoming budget. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines. I'm Louise McKenzie. More from me in half an hour's time.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. We've got a 3-way split in the weather today. Rain in the northwest, sunnier for most towards the south, but it will be turning chillier for all of us on Sunday. Having a look at the bigger picture, we've got frontal systems out towards the south and east, but a cold front towards the northwest. And here we have heavy spells of rain sinking their way south and eastwards across Scotland, but later into northwest England, into Wales, but it will gradually sink its way southwards and start fizzling out. We may see some mist and fog patches across the southeast early through this evening, but those should clear. And in many places tonight, seeing a clear night, but temperatures will drop. We may see some mist and fog, but also some pockets of frost. So a colder but brighter start out there through Sunday for many of us. There will be some showers, especially across northern parts of Scotland, quite blustery as they move through. But across many places, still seeing some sunshine, but feeling colder out there to start Sunday morning. And then we have cloud and rain coming through across western parts later into Northern Ireland. Elsewhere though, across much of England and Wales, plenty of sunshine to start the day. And we hold on to that sunshine across much of England and Wales through Sunday, so plenty of autumnal sunshine out there. But further towards the west, especially across Northern Ireland and Scotland, it'll be turning increasingly cloudy and damp with outbreaks of rain moving through, persistent but also quite heavy over the hills. For all of us, though, it is going to be feeling quite chilly out there. We'll see highs of 13 or 14 degrees in the south. As we go through Sunday evening, that cloud and rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland will continue to push in, affecting northwestern parts of England and into Wales later. But as we go into the week, higher pressure does start to dominate, but it'll be quite cloudy still, with temperatures close to average. Bye-bye.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good afternoon, 39 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News, we are Britain's news channel. I'm Nana Akua, and it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, is British police broken? I mean, who would want to be a policeman when you can be hounded for just doing your job, as Sergeant Martin Blake was in the case of the Chris Kaba incident? Moreover, Britain's shops are suffering 2 thefts every minute, as retail theft has hit its highest level since records began. All of that equates to a horrifying 9,000 offences a week. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is British policing broken? Well, joining me now is columnist and broadcaster Lizzie Cundy and also political commentator Jonathan Liss. I'm going to start with you, Lizzie Cundy. Is policing broken?
Yes, I think it is broken. It's an uphill battle. They're underfunded, they're undertrained. And look what we've just witnessed with the Chris Kaba incident. Who would actually want to be a police officer? And it's shocked me the amount of support I've seen for who we now know was a notorious gangster. Support for this man, I feel for the officers who has had 2 years of hell. His name is known. His family and him live in fear, and who, as I say, would want to be a police officer?
Jonathan Liss.
I think that we can acknowledge that Chris Kaba may have done bad things and that he was still killed by the police. Now, obviously, that was tested in a court of law, and the jury found the police officer not guilty. But the appropriate place to test that is in the court of law. So people can do bad things and still be sort of victims of crime and still be unlawfully killed. So both those things can be true. So I would certainly not support any kind of raising of the bar for prosecution, for example, and if the police officer is found to, have not done anything wrong, the jury can be trusted to reach that verdict. I think that there is still very much a culture in this country where police officers do get away with things. Actually, not that I don't think we don't see reams of police officers, swathes of police officers being sent to jail for violence or brutality against members of the public or killing of members of the public, even when there is evidence to suggest that people may have been unjustly treated.
Well, no, come on, Wayne Couzens and people like that. Look, when an officer does something bad, they are prosecuted. But we all know that the police force isn't, has had its issues. Let's be honest. Nobody's saying that it doesn't. But when you see instances like Chris Kaba, where an officer does what he thinks is the right thing and transpires that the jury agree with him, his life is now turned over. Other officers are now handing back their arms because they don't want to do it. What I'm saying is, on the way we're treating our officers, I mean, I don't think he should have ever been named without... If he'd been found guilty, then fair enough. But he wasn't found guilty, so at that point he shouldn't have been named. So who would want to be... Well,
Yvette Cooper has now changed
I'm glad she has, yes.
regulation.
She was right to do that.
Right, OK, well, I'm glad that there's actually a bit of praise for the Labour Party.
There's no praise for the party, I'm just saying she was right to do that.
That was the right thing to do.
All right, so I think that we have to, just as I said before, that the police do get a lot of things wrong, and that they should be held to a rigorous standard. That's what the public expects. We've seen countless examples of the police failing the public over the last few years. So I think that we just have a balance. Obviously, there's a balance we have to take into account.
The police need to improve their vetting,
right,
obviously.
Of course.
But
right.
if you watch that footage of Chris Kaba going backwards and forwards in his car, there was no choice that officer had to do. He was scared for the life of his other fellow policemen that were there. That car was going backwards and forwards. And if he found a way, he would have easily have run over one of his colleagues.
Right,
what it was he was saying that his officers were in the triangle of death, and they are always warned not to be in that area because it's literally the officer. You can be. So he did what he did, and it's been tried, and he's been acquitted of any wrongdoing. But the issue is that he's been named, and the point of it is that with things like this, who would want to be a police officer? So in my view, and also with all the shoplifting and everything, police don't show up to all these things. Is our police, not only the force, but actually policing itself, is it really seriously broken, is the question?
Well, I think that there are lots of ways in which it might be broken. The trust is broken with the public. I think the Metropolitan Police is a broken service and in dire need of reform, and not just of changing the figures at the top. We need a root and branch reform. The Met Police has been repeatedly found to be institutionally racist in reports, and these are things that need to be addressed.
Can we remember that many of our policemen put their life on the line
and that's
every single day?
Also true.
And sadly, shoplifters are getting away with it. They can steal under £200 and just get a slap on the wrist, which is absolutely madness.
Listen, I don't subscribe to the language of institutional racism simply because there are individuals within an institution who are being racist, and if they were all pulled up individually for the racism would be dead.
Okay, well, no, that's
unfortunately
it's not my phrase. That's a phrase that has been.
I'm not saying it's your phrase.
Sure,
I don't subscribe to that.
Okay, fine.
You're
welcome to.
You're fix their racism.
Obviously welcome
exactly.
to.
Otherwise, people use that as an excuse to continue with the racism within an organisation, which I'm saying is used as an excuse to enable racism, which is what I see when I hear that word. Instead of saying which officer was racist, who did what, punish those individuals.
I think that the phrase suggests that there is a culture which enables and facilitates that kind of behaviour. That's what we're going to try and get rid of.
Better vetting.
But also better reward for our police officers and absolute common sense that we don't name officers who are doing their job before they've been found innocent or guilty. If they're found guilty, fair enough. But on this case, I thought it was totally unacceptable. But listen, coming up, my quick fire quiz. I'm going to test the panel on some of the stories that hit the news this week. Don't go anywhere.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Right, we're having beans this morning.
Beans for breakfast. There's no better breakfast, is there?
I like beans on toast for breakfast.
So do I. I would actually call myself a baked beans connoisseur.
Would you? Well, we can put you to the test. Tell us what the story is.
The story is, you might think beans, you might think Heinz. Heinz means beans.
Beans means Heinz.
Beans means Heinz. Heinz means beans. Who knows? So, of all of the supermarket baked beans, it is actually the Aldi supermarket version, this version over here, which came out on top. The Bramwell's baked beans, 76% on the taste test.
And they're much cheaper as well.
Much cheaper. Households can save, if you're buying 2 cans a week, £100 a year buying the Aldi version of these baked beans. So we thought we're going to do a blind taste test this morning.
Yes. So we've got the Aldi beans, we've got M&S beans, and we've got beans Heinz. So I think number 2 is the best one.
Yeah, I agree.
Right,
you came first best to me.
So the Heinz is number 3.
Interesting.
Which was the worst one?
Which is the worst one, which is the ones, actually, I'll buy it home.
Do you know what? That's just proven it. M&S was number one. And Aldi was number two, which was our favourite as well.
I said M&S.
Yeah, and we both said Aldi.
We did say Aldi. I have to be honest, I was not expecting that.
I told you. This is a hill I will
Try
die on.
that
These
one.
are the beans that I get at home, and I love them.
At university, you get the tin that's half that size, and it was 21p for the store ones and 23p for Heinz baked beans. And as I say, the key was in the thickness of the sauce and how hard the beans were.
They actually are really nice.
Stunning.
They're really. I am
Stunning.
really surprised, and we buy more than 2 cans a week, so it saved me a couple of £100.
We get through 2 cans.
you like the
in
Aldi
city.
ones?
I like the Aldi ones. I'm shocked.
They're a lot
There you go.
cheaper. Yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
So if you just tuned in, where have you been? It's near the end of the show, but the Saturday 5 is up next, so loads more entertainment here on GB News. But it is time now for the Quickfire quiz. I'm Nana Akua. Welcome on board. The part of the show where I test my panel on some of the other stories that are hitting the headlines right now. I'm joined by broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy. Your buzzer, please, Lizzie. And also political commentator Jonathan Liss. Your buzzer, please. Right, and please play along at home. Right, let's do it. Question 1, now this is multiple choice. How many small boat migrants arrived this week? Was it A, 800, B, 1,000, C, 1,200, or D, I've started so I'll finish, D, 500? The rules are that if you buzz before the end of the question, the other person gets to go. But you need to buzz, otherwise you
right.
do the same thing to you.
B, I don't know.
Which is 1,000.
1,000.
Lizzie Cundy.
I'm going to go for A.
800. Let's see. The answer is it's C. You're both totally wrong. 1,200 people, yeah, ridiculous, unbelievable, have crossed the channel this week. The number of arrivals this year have overtaken the entire 2023. So we're going great guns. Smashing the gangs is really happening. Question 2, closest answer wins. How many 18 to 25-year-olds have started smoking tobacco in the 100 days since the King's speech, when the government committed to introducing a tobacco and vapes bill?
How does anyone know that?
Well, you take a guess. Press your buzzer.
How does anyone know?
Because it was in the news. The number was in the news. Press the buzzer, one of you.
2 million.
2 million. Your buzzer, please.
15,000.
Oh, God. Oh. Well, listen, you're both. It's...
The
answer is 35,000 18 to 25-year-olds have started smoking tobacco in the 100 days. That is around about 350 people a day. That it goes to you, Lizzie.
No, that goes to me. I said 15,000. She said 2 million.
Oh, did you say 2 million?
I can't remember.
I got a little bit closer. Yeah, no, that's my point.
Cheat.
Right, question 3. True or false? A singer has found that selling pictures of her feet on OnlyFans is more profitable than the Spotify streams. Lizzie Cundy.
True.
Was I not allowed to answer because I buzzed early? I thought you were allowed to. I thought you were allowed to buzz in.
No,
oh my, I knew the answer. I knew the answer.
Unfortunately, Jonathan, you don't get the point. Lizzie Cundy, well done.
And I know who it was. Well, can I get a bonus point? No, it's Lily Allen.
It is Lily Allen. I'll give you a throwaway point.
Thank you.
Singer Lily Allen's side gig is selling feet pics, which nets her $10,000 a month.
Wow.
What?
Come on, get your toes out.
Oh, I might try that.
I might start.
She's got very pretty toes.
I might start selling pictures of my jeans.
No one wants to see my
jeans.
toes. Let me tell you, they look like pasta twists. My toes.
We'll have to get a shot of those. Right. Yes, of course, it's a very unconventional side hustle, but it's gained her attention and criticism. Her response to the situation is, don't hate the player, hate the game. Very good. All right, fair enough. Question 4, well, she's given up on singing. She wasn't very good. Question 4. You don't think she was?
I thought she's good.
Well, you know, we all have our tastes. Right. Worcester City councillors appear to be contemplating bird contraceptives. True or false? Lizzie Cundy.
True.
True.
No, she says true. You should say false, just in case it's false. But the answer is actually true.
Yes.
Inspired by experimental pigeon control schemes in Barcelona and Venice, the Labour councillor Jill Desire described the approach as safe sex for seagulls. I'm concerned that the increasing number of gulls are getting out of hand, she said. An open question, question 5. Why were parents of children as young as 6 years old left fuming after an autumn sing-along at a church? Go on, one of you, press your buzzer. I haven't got all day. Come on, press your buzzer first. Lizzie Cundy.
No microphones. They couldn't. I'm trying to think of something.
Go on.
There were too many people cast as Jesus. It's a bit early for nativity, but I don't know.
The children were shown, oh my God, pornography. The staff at Hornsey Community Primary School have reportedly written to parents to apologise for the gaffe at the United Reformed Church. Oh,
that's awful. I didn't expect
You'd
that.
never have guessed this.
No.
Listen, Benny,
I won.
Well done, Lizzie Cundy. You are the
By
winner on
1
this
point.
Still a winner.
There are only 5 in total, so she's the winner. Well done to Jonathan and Lizzie. But earlier on in the show, I asked, can Sir Keir Starmer's government really smash the gangs? And according to our poll, an incredible 99% of you say no.
I was amazed it was only 99%, to be honest.
Of you say yes.
Who are the 1%? Who are the 1%? You're on the wrong channel.
And none of you say, I don't know. 99%. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to my panel, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also political commentator Jonathan Liss. And a huge thank you to you at home for your company. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, same time, same place. The Saturday 5 is up next. Your weather is on the way.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. We've got a three-way split in the weather today. Rain in the northwest, sunnier for most towards the south, but it will be turning chillier for all of us on Sunday. Having a look at the bigger picture, we've got frontal systems out towards the south and east, but a cold front towards the northwest. And here we have heavy spells of rain sinking their way south and eastwards across Scotland, but later into northwest England, into Wales, but it will gradually sink its way southwards and start fizzling out. We may see some mist and fog patches across the southeast early through this evening, but those should clear. And then many places tonight seeing a clear night, but temperatures will drop. We may see some mist and fog, but also some pockets of frost. So a colder but brighter start out there through Sunday for many of us. There will be some showers, especially across northern parts of Scotland, quite blustery as they move through, but across many places still seeing some sunshine, but feeling colder out there to start Sunday morning. And then we have cloud and rain coming through across western parts later into Northern Ireland. Elsewhere though, across much of England and Wales, plenty of sunshine to start the day. And we hold on to that sunshine across much of England and Wales through Sunday, so plenty of autumnal sunshine out there. But further towards the west, especially across Northern Ireland and Scotland, it'll be turning increasingly cloudy and damp with outbreaks of